Who's ready for the Dirt Life Show?
Yeah. Welcome to episode 84 of the Dirt Life Show. We are stoked to be in, thank you very much, Rob MacCachren, for having us in his race shop in Southern California. We really appreciate you having us, dude.
Yeah, thanks for coming. Try to get it cleaned up for you. And Lucero's got the trophy truck. It's about, it's just starting to go back together for the Vol 500.
Hey, so I'll keep the introduction going, but a funny story right when we got here. So Rob Blanton, who is also going to be my co-host tonight, we walk in and I go, Lucero, and he goes, like, who are you? Like, you're delivering shit? Like, what are you? Like, we're the FedEx guys, right? And then so he starts asking us our names, and then he goes, do you know what Lucero means? I'm like, yeah, it means the milkman. And then we started getting in the conversation of like how he got it and all this different stuff. So it was pretty cool because we literally could have been the delivery guys and just infiltrated the shop, dude.
He was very surprised that somebody was walking in here.
You could have got yourself some parts. Yeah, we're here to pick up the engine, transmission.
Yeah. Who knows, man? So the FedEx guys. Yeah, excuse me. Thank you very much for joining us. I just looked at the last time Rob joined us. He's going to be the first guest that has participated in a feature twice. And the last episode that he did was episode 66, which was really cool. We did a whole bunch of storytelling, and we had a really good time with him. But one of the main reasons that I called Rob to be back on the show was we had an audience member tell me, George, you should have shut the fuck up and let Rob talk because I wanted to hear him tell stories more. So I was really, really impressed by that, and I wanted to have Rob come on a little bit more because he does have so many fantastic stories to talk about. And Rob Blanton had just come back from Mexico as well. So you guys have both been to Mexico in the last month. And so it'll be kind of cool to share stories like that as well, too. So I really think tonight's episode is going to be fantastic. We want all of you guys to join us online. You can hit us up on Facebook anytime. We're always live at 5 on Monday nights. So you guys can hit us there if you have comments for the legend, the champion, and obviously if you want to talk a bunch of shit, we can do that as well. So it'll be a pretty cool show. We're on Facebook and YouTube, so either one that's your preferred platform. I already see comments and things like that coming in. Somebody said they can't hear, but no audio. Well, the audio is still recording for us. I'm not sure why it would be so low, but maybe you guys can tell me if you can hear now because the audio looks like it's actually going through pretty good on our end. So let me know if you can or can't hear it. But anyways, we're going to have a fantastic show tonight. We're really stoked to talk to Rob about some of the stuff that he's got going on for 2021. This last race that he had at the San Felipe 250. We may have a special guest calling in around 5:30. Rob doesn't know who it is. It might be a little bit of a surprise. Blanton over there.
I know who it is.
Yeah, Blanton over there. He's got the top secret information. And also, we're not going to let these guys see it, but we're going to also play Are You Smarter Than a Third Grader? Between the two Robs, Battle Royale. So that'll be pretty fun. And we're going to talk about some fun stuff, man. We're going to talk about, works on Instagram. Well, I don't know why it's not working on that.
I'm looking at it
Look
right
at the
now.
list.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Yeah, I took it away too quick.
Too fast.
You guys would have hit the pause button, like just stopping your story if you're on your phone.
I just know that I crushed Matty Wedeking, so.
You did do pretty good on that one, right? So I don't know if you guys can still hear us, but you can please tell us if there is or isn't any audio on YouTube or Facebook because we're getting audio over here on our end. No audio on Facebook is what they're saying. I'm not really sure how to just fix the audio on Facebook. It actually says that we have no audio on YouTube either. That's weird. That shouldn't happen because if it's going through to Instagram, then it's going through to everybody else. Give me a sound check real quick, Rob Blanton.
Microphone check,
Yeah.
1 2 1 2.
So you guys are doing good, man.
Brown chicken, brown cow.
I don't know what the deal is over here. Let me see if we got a loose plug or something.
Technical difficulties. We're going to work our way through this.
It looks like we got everything over. I checked out his mountain bike over there, and he couldn't stop talking about that bad boy. It is.
Yeah, Lucero loves mountain biking. He used to be, you guys know Eli Tomac, the Supercross. His dad, John Tomac, Lucero used to be a mechanic for him. So Lucero loves.
We heard all about it.
Yeah, we know exactly. We saw about every single picture in his photo album as well on his phone. So that was pretty cool. Please tell us if you do or don't have audio, if you can hear us. I the audio is coming through just fine on our side, so I'm not sure what the heck is happening over there, like you guys said on Facebook or YouTube. So please let us know. But we have some pretty cool subjects that we're going to cover tonight. One was actually it's a little bit of something that you've done before. We're going to ask Rob how the adrenaline therapy session went this past Saturday, something that you've actually participated in.
Yeah, it's a good thing.
It was pretty cool when you went out there, too. It gave people rides.
No, absolutely. It's been probably earlier this year. Went out, maybe the end of last year, actually. Went out there and participated in that. It was real cool, giving rides all day. And I was in a 4-seat Polaris Razor, and it didn't have a rear sway bar on it, so a lot of corners and stuff. And so we were doing a lot of three-wheeling out there. And
a lot of three-wheel motion.
I think I was having a ball, honestly. I could all of a sudden, at the beginning, I'm, okay, what are we doing? Let's give rides, and super looking forward to it. But seeing the faces of the vets and all the people, their families and the kids and stuff that were riding, and I realized I'm smiling and having as much fun as they are. And
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it was really cool. So awesome event, and I haven't been able to get out to do another one yet, but we will for sure do that.
It is really cool, and that's one of the things. It's like the smiles are infectious, right? It just makes you smile. It makes everybody smile there. Like I remember leaving at the last adrenaline therapy session I was at, and I went back to the hotel at the time, and I was like, man, I can't even sleep. I'm so fired up.
Yeah, definitely. I know the feeling.
So we're going to talk a little bit about San Felipe, do a little San Felipe 250 recap. Rob can tell us how his race was, and kind of compare it to the Nora rally that you guys did, Blanton.
I bet you my race was a lot more funner.
Because you got to experience it with some veterans, which was cool. Absolutely. And then you also got to you probably ate more tacos because you were down there.
Yeah. When you go down to Baja, Mexico with Aaron Wedeking of PRP Seats, you're not going to miss a taco stand. So
never.
That was that white polar bear.
Yeah.
Yeah, never. You don't miss a taco stand. So ate a lot.
I'm not sure if we should start over again or not, but if we have no audio on either of the platforms, it's going to be pretty difficult for us to have a good show. So Instagram guys, maybe just hang out for a second. I'm going to see if I can start this audio over again.
Yeah, one of your guys jumped over and said that it is working on IG.
Right. But if it's working on IG, it should be working here too. So let me just swap out a cable real quick and see if that helps. Maybe you guys can talk a little bit about Nora and some of the fun stuff that happened.
So I have not done Nora yet, but I keep saying one of these years I'm going to get to it because, my racing, everything I've been doing is, for me, is turned pretty serious, and I got to win. I feel a lot of pressure and everything, and I keep telling Rob, one of these years I'm coming down there to help you guys.
You got to come down to help us. I mean, because social function, you get to hang out with your fellow racers and just have a lot of fun. And for us, my co-driver, Alex Hernandez, who this is the first time he's ever done anything like that. He's a combat wounded Marine, Purple Heart recipient. And he was my navigator for the first day.
Should be good now.
So we're cruising along, and he's doing a great job for learning because we use Lead Nav, we use Lowrance, and we have the rally book. And when we finally cross over the finish line, handing over our time card, everyone's all excited, handing us beers, and he's not saying a word, right? And all of a sudden I'm like, bro, what's up? He's like, I gotta throw up. Right? So we have to pull forward.
You gotta make this story a little deeper though. This dude is a big Samoan guy. I mean, he's got like the full, like the hair, the long hair, the good beard. Like, I mean, like he's a good looking like Samoan dude. Like
he's actually 100% Mexican.
But he looks like a Samoan dude.
Yeah. So anyways, he's just this. Yeah. And then he jumps out first he's trying to get through the door, but we have a secondary locking system because we got a door slammer, and that's still latched. He can't push through it. Finally, he stops, gets it undone, jumps out. His mane is just like flowing in the air, and all of a sudden, oh boy, just blows chunks everywhere, right?
Dude.
Well, the race tracker guys, the Stella guys, are right there. He's doing it right in front of them.
Yeah.
So from that day on, every time they'd see him, they would just be like, "Hey, don't throw up this time," just. He's like, man, I'm going to have to whoop that dude's ass just to gain some respect back from him.
But the funniest part about it was on the Instagram Live, what he said was, he's like, at least I didn't throw up in front of the chicks.
He's like, oh, I just didn't want to throw up in front of the checkered pants girls.
Oh, man, that's funny. Have you ever made somebody throw up in the passenger seat?
Yeah. Co-riders that get seasick and, get motion sickness, stuff like that. Yeah, so I've had my fair share of co-riders that can't ride anymore because of it. So,
really?
Yeah. It's kind of.
Do people take any medicine for that, or is that even?
Yeah, I've had co-riders try different things. Trying to figure it out. Some cured it with just chewing gum. If they chew gum, then they wouldn't get sick anymore.
Wow.
Others tried patch. Diet. Bracelets, just all kinds of different things. I've had 2 or 3 guys that had issues.
Alex, from that day on, because then he drove the next day, and I was his co-dog.
Oh.
But the third day where he was co-dog for me again, Dramamine. He's like, I'm not making that mistake again.
He's fine?
He was no issues.
Nice, that's cool.
But then you also, tell him certain things too, like stop staring at the book in your lap, hold the book up, and pay attention to the book that way.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So you're a little bit more focused.
You got to keep the eye on the horizon and things like that.
Yeah.
And sometimes you tell them, pretend like you're driving, because if they, head down and not paying attention, then they're always swaying. It's just like they're on a boat. So
you know all the tricks, I'm sure.
I try. I don't know.
So if you guys didn't hear the little bit of the intro, I know you guys on Instagram Live did, but we're going to talk about all kinds of fun stuff today. We're going to have story time with the Robs. We're going to play Are You Smarter Than a Third Grader? We're going to talk a little bit more about the NORA 1000 Rally. I want to talk a little bit about pre-running. We actually have a really fun camera shot over here of one of yours. Nice vehicles, right?
That's my my Lumacraft pre-runner.
How long have you had that thing in action for pre-running?
It's actually been around since 2006.
Really?
Yeah, it's got a lot of miles on it.
Nice. It just takes a little refresh every year, or what?
Yeah, once a year we go through the transmission. The motor, just change the oil, filters, but the transmission once a year, suspension twice a year, shocks, once a year, and just keep running it. And it's been really good. Right there, it's still dirty from San Felipe, and about 2 weeks we'll be heading to Baja 500.
One of the crazy things that I always hear or think about when I see these vehicles is I think like, man, it's so. Like if the vehicle could tell stories, like how many miles and what different things have happened on the trail, you know what I mean? Like it's just insane for me to think. Actually, you know what? Why don't you tell a cool story about pre-running that you've had over the past 10 years that just like stands out?
It's been a lot. I mean, ultimately, this pre-runner was my dream for quite some time, and always had a 2-seat buggy. But I kept saying, hey, I want a pre-runner that I can stop by the beach and make a sandwich. I used to pre-run with Walker Evans, and we'd bring an ice chest, and we'd in the Ram Charger, and we'd stop along the ocean. So I said, I want to do that, but I'm a buggy guy. And so anyways, this was a dream of mine. It's got an electric refrigerator in it, and up there in the top box, there's actually a aluminum plate that goes on the front bumper to make a lunch table. Don't really use that. Matter of fact, I don't think I've ever used it, but ultimately, a ton of fun, 3 seats, a lot of fuel, spare parts. People have bought me 12-volt hot dog makers with bun warmer, hot dog maker. So I have that. Got an electric microwave for the thing. So, but that thing's been up and down the peninsula, it's been pre-running, every year since 2006, and I don't know how many miles. The GPS says 40,000 something, but I know it's at least, I guarantee it's double that. So, usually, but that, speaking of pre-running stories, that car right there, scored at a race down there from Cabo to Loretto, and I was down there pre-running, my co-rider wasn't able to make it down yet, so I had an old guy, about 60-something years old, and we were out there by Todos Santos, and I said, hey, I want to pre-run this section one more time, and there's an access road, I see it on the map that comes back out to the main highway, just meet me there, and I'll get back, and ended up, pre-running the desert section, got on the asphalt road, and we're just flying down the asphalt road headed east, from the Pacific back into the Highway 1, and just going down a road I've never been down before, and all of a sudden got a little bit twisty, and no big deal, probably going way too fast, and all of a sudden the road just went over the rise, over the crest, and it started going right, and it kept getting tighter and tighter. We were probably, doing close to 100 when I first saw that.
Whoa, man.
And as we're going, I'm like turning in, trying to make the corner, and the thing keeps getting closer and closer to the edge. So I got to turn in, except it gets loose. Now it's coming around, so I got to turn the other way. So I'm just sitting there. It seemed like forever going around this corner, turn it in. Oh, it's loose. Turn it out, turn it in, turn it out. Finally, I wasn't going to make it, so I just turned, pointed it straight, and it went right off the side of the road, and I had no idea where we were going. It was a downhill, jumped off that. As we're in the air, as soon as we leave the road, we're in the air, and all I see is trees. And then as it's going down, I see cows. And I'm like, oh, we're going to hit a cow. Landed. Ba-boom. We made it. We didn't crash. Hit the brakes, look up, and there's just cows scattered everywhere. Didn't hit one. And was like, oh, my God, that really just happened. And thank God, it wasn't off a cliff into the ocean or a canyon or whatever. So we landed safely. I downshifted, got it back in first gear, came back up on the road. And when I got up on the road, it's like, are you okay? To the guy, I can't remember his name right now. And he's like, yeah. He's like, I'm okay. And about that time, right there on the inside of the corner, when we got back up on the road, there was a Mexican rancher just standing there shaking his head like,
you're getting ready to pay me mucho dinero for one of those cows, buddy.
Exactly.
That's hilarious. That's a good story, though. And not like nothing happened, right?
No, it's amazing. And again, like I said, we basically, when I turned into it and committed to going straight off, like I had no idea what was straight off.
Do you remember what his reaction was?
He's just laughing, honestly. He was a good dude. His name will come to me, but he was a super high energy, guy. And actually, Cisco B.O. used to ride with me. His dad, Poncho, was chasing us, and then his good friend, it's not Mario, Gary, there's another one. But anyways, was riding with me, and he was just so upbeat and like it was the coolest thing ever to him. The whole ordeal, pre-running from Cabo to Loreto, he got to do a lot of that, and he'd never experienced that stuff before. So
that is super
definitely a lot of good times.
Man, I don't know if you guys had any pre-running stories like that.
No. First of all, we've never pre-ran because the NORA is a rally, so they hand everything to you.
Oh, that's
and then
right.
We've done the Mint. That's a non-pre-run, course, and at least it is for our class. And so we're just out there having fun.
Man, that is
but that right
story.
there just cements why, I'm not a good co-dog at all, because I'm such a control freak.
How hard would you have been puckered in that situation?
I probably would have closed my eyes and just waited for it to end.
That's a good story, though. Hey, man, so, just like, let's see, David Peace just said, hey, story time with Rob is on. Yep, we're going to have some good stories coming out tonight. I want to talk a little bit about short course, too, and see how things are going with short course. I remember, last time you started talking about the old Pro 4 that's sitting over there behind the I don't think you could see it in this camera. Yeah, you can see the top of it.
The top of it.
The newer Pro 4 is under the car cover there to the right, and then
nobody's allowed to look at that one. Not even
don't
us.
look at that. It's top secret, but it's for sale. You interested? Come look at it. It's ready to go.
But I actually liked the stories of the older Pro 4 a little bit, and I was trying to remember what you said, but I couldn't. And you told us last time, I wanted you to tell Robert Blanton a little bit about it because it's so nostalgic, but you said it was one of the best trucks you've ever actually gotten to drive, but it's not legal now?
Yeah, no, it's that truck. That truck was built by Nye Frank and Dave Clark and had air shocks on it. And that truck has quite a few, at least 2 or 3 rules that have been made against it. And one of them, because of it. So one, in short course racing, there's a rule that the minimum ride height's 10 inches. Well, it's because of that truck was 7 inches. There's also another one, air shocks. That truck had air shocks on it. That truck, the last 2 years it raced, 2000, 2001, it won 11 races both years, and I think we ran 16 one year and 8 in the next year. So it won 22 out of how many ever that is in those last 2 years. And then in December of 2001, I got a letter from Marty Reed, who he owned Core at the time, and I got a letter from him saying your truck is illegal and you're not allowed to bring it back. And I ended up making a phone call to him, and I said, what's the reason for that, and on and on and on. And he said, it's just, that's what it is. And I couldn't argue with it anymore. And I said, racing for me, it's my livelihood. It's how I put food on the table. And if you're going to make it harder for me to do that, I'm not coming back. And I think he didn't believe me because, we were doing pretty good at it and so on and so forth. So the very next season that series started, Core, I don't remember where the first race was, but I got a phone call from Frank D'Angelo, who used to be with BF Goodrich, and he said, Rob, are you coming? And I'm like, no, I'm not coming. And he goes, well, they have a spot for you here, like you're coming. And I go, Frank,
crap.
you know I'm not coming. So, I ended up stopping racing in that kind of short course in 2001. Thank goodness, a guy named Jim Baldwin, who's passed away recently. A lot of people don't know that, but Jim Baldwin of the New Corps, he sent me another letter when he was running races back in the Midwest, and then he ended up bringing Corps out here.
Right.
And when he did that, he ran some races at Chula Vista, and I have a letter saying your truck's illegal from Marty Reed, and then I have a letter from Jim Baldwin saying, hey, we want you to come race your truck again. So
Bring it out.
So bring it out. But yeah, that truck there in the background that you saw earlier was built by Nye Frank and Dave Clark. It had air shocks on it. Very unique truck, and it was a pretty damn cool thing. Now it's just an expensive truck sitting there that's doesn't race anymore. So a lot of good stories with that. A couple rules that were made against it, and a lot of good times.
Man, it's so crazy to hear those stories. Like, they go back so far, and the amount of off-road credentials that sit just in this building that we're sitting in, Rob, is pretty fantastic.
That truck also, RJ Anderson has a chance right now, but that truck is the only truck that's won 3 of the Labor Day Challenge races, which back in that day they were called the Borg Warner Trophy. So that's the truck the only truck that's won 3 of those in a row. Now RJ's on 2, and I'm pretty sure he's getting ready to go back to try to do a 3-peat, and good luck to him. Maybe he could be the second person to do that. So.
Does any of that make you I kind of don't want him to beat my record?
Well, that goes both ways. Honestly, you don't want him to beat it, but also, with time becomes development, and rules are made to be broken, and it's something that we did. It stood for a long time. That happened in 99, 2000, 2001 were those years. So it stood, I guess, for 20 years. Nobody's beat it.
And you always got to feel good about that progression, right? Like, you've done it and had that record for so long. When somebody beats it, it's like, wow, I'm going to give this dude a pat on the back. That's good.
And it's absolutely true. And that's one of the unique things about off-road racing. I think back and you see old videos and stuff, and what the trucks look like. What did a trophy truck look like in 2004? In 1994, it was the first year of trophy truck, and I was actually in an I-Beam Class 8 truck and won that championship. And, I giggle for quite some time, about 5 years ago, people say the trophy trucks or the drivers are better than they ever were. And I'm like, I came from old school and I'm part of new school as well. And I said, no way. In 94, we had Ivan Stewart, Walker Evans, just some of the baddest dudes there were. And I'm like, no, these guys aren't them. Well, now I'm starting to say to myself, you know what? We got some really bad dudes right now. Andy, Luke McMillan, Bryce Menzies. There's 20 guys that can all haul the mail. So
it's just different perspective. Hey, and so actually, I'm going to use this right now. So everybody that's watching, I'm going to ask Rob, and I don't know, sometime during the show, who your Mount Rushmore of off-road is. So start thinking about who you put on that bad boy. Actually, you guys too, you think about who your Mount Rushmore of off-road is. I know in my Mount Rushmore of off-road, he's one of the top dogs that I would pick. So before we have our secret guest call in, I'm going to thank our sponsors. So thank you very much to all the guys over at, I know you're a Vision Wheel guy, but at KMC and EFX. Those guys have supported the show since day one. So thank you very much to both Ryans over at excuse me, Wheel Pros over there. You can always go to KMC Wheels and get your wheels. You can go down to 4-Wheel Parts. You can buy wheels. So look at the KMC stuff, man. They got some awesome stuff. If you want to get any of the merch, like the hats and T-shirts and stuff like that, you can go to wheelmerch.com. Check it out. They got a whole bunch of cool stuff, man. Thank you very much to the guys over at Shock Therapy. They've done some fantastic stuff that we can talk about maybe today, or you can look at some of the Instagram stories that we posted. To the Unicorn YXZ that we have. They do awesome stuff for Polaris, Can-Am, everybody. They can get your side-by-side all set up with the ride improvement system. They got steering racks. They got everything, man. So use the code DIRTLIFE over at shocktherapist.com, or just give them a call and say the Dirt Life sent you, and they'll help you out. Thank you very much to the guys over at Zollinger Racing Products. Travis has been really pushing the RS1 stuff. They've been doing some development on new parts and products for that thing. They've been always doing stuff for the Can-Am. So go check out ZollingerRacingProducts.com for all their new stuff. They have tons of accessories. Use the code DIRTLIFE and you can save a whole bunch of money at their website. Thank you very much to Josh over at CryoHeat for being a part of the show. They make some fantastic parts. or added bonuses to some of the parts that they have, and they do Polaris Pro Mod transmissions. That's the one I keep pumping because they're so much lighter than a stock one. I don't know if you've ever seen them or if Caden, your son, has ever seen them, but they're all heat treated, so they have less rolling resistance. I think there's something like 15 or 20% less weight and mass in the transmissions. They're actually really cool for the UTVs.
Yeah, nice.
So go ahead and check out cryoheat.com. And if you have any questions, give them a call over there. Tell them the Dirt Life sent you. And thank you very much to the guys over at Solderweld. They have these awesome welding blankets and off-road repair kits. You can use the code DIRTLIFE at solderweld.com. You can save your race or your ride by using one of their kits. And like I always say every time, thank you guys for joining us because you guys are our lifeblood. So please always go on Facebook 5 p.m. Or YouTube 5 p.m. on Mondays, and you can hang out with us. If you can't check us out live on Mondays, you always got dinner with a family or whatever it is, you can check us out in the archives on iTunes and all of the different podcast networks, Spotify, Amazon, every one of them. So, man, we're going to have some serious fun tonight. I don't know when we should throw in Are You Smarter Than the Third Grader?
That was a seriously long freaking thank you for sponsors. Look at all those questions that are rolling in. Right. I just said, look at Caden Danbury asked
16 questions
30 minutes ago, what was Rob's first race vehicle?
All right.
And John Lewis has been sharing rad stuff forever, trying to take it back to the early 90s. And wow.
Let's get through some of these comments, but while we're doing that, I'm going to try to think of ways to get through that quicker. I don't know if I could talk any faster. Okay, so let's see here. Storytime with Rob is on. That's a full send. John Lewis says, let's take it back even further than the old Pro 4. Let's hear some Mickey Thompson Stadium Series Grand National Sport trucks. Dang, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
Those trucks were little and skinny, weren't they?
Yeah, they were actually, when I look back now, they were like a mini truck. So
he's talking 93-ish.
Yeah. Yeah, I started racing Mickey Thompson in 1988, maybe 89 for Walker Evans, and then in 91 moved to the Ford Rough Rider program. But those trucks, they were small. And they had a really low ride height. Matter of fact, in the moguls and stuff, you had to go fast or you get high centered. A lot of times those trucks, they had a rhythm section, so it was like about a 2 or 3 foot high jump, and then there was 2, and then there was a gap in 2, and then like that sometimes you try to quad them, but you'd land on the chassis, and man, sometimes they hurt. But the bumping and banging, you look at some of the old videos, Google that stuff, Mickey Thompson stadium trucks, and we would basically just drill each other in the door. And I look back at the videos now and I'm like, oh my God, look what we're doing. We're just trashing each other. But it makes me remember why my back hurt so much when I was younger compared to now, But yeah, Mickey Thompson, great days and racing Anaheim Stadium. I got to travel all across the country. I've been to Montreal. I raced in Tokyo with trucks. And
how different was the actual racing portion of it, in those stadiums? Because you couldn't do that with the new trucks.
Not really. I mean, as anything, the truck gets purpose built to what it's trying to do, know, and those trucks, they had to be battle worthy, we used to call it. They had to have big bumpers, yep, front and rear, protecting the bodywork, and the rear bumpers wrapped around trying to protect the fiberglass. In the beginning of the Mickey Thompson, when I started, the roofs and the door skins were steel, and then the rest was body fiberglass. But as time went on, and that's kind of a funny story, we always used to wonder, why did they come up with colored duct tape? Well, the joke is in Mickey Thompson, because the bodies were all patched together, and to get the branding back, you had duct tape to put back on there. So the colors
match it.
Yeah, it's just kind of a joke because in the end, and we raced 3 times in one night. So you had practice during the day. 7 p.m. was the first heat. About 8:30 the second one, and then the final main was at 11. So it was a lot like Supercross. For you guys who haven't seen it, it was like Supercross layout. You had the heats and then the main, and there was the Grand National Sport trucks, the super buggies, the ultra stocks. There was motorcycles, quads, everything. It was really production, but man,
and they were all based off of production mini trucks,
mini trucks,
S10s,
yep,
Rangers.
Yep, your Chevy. So at that time, and those were some of the best times ever in off-road, honestly. And it's because we had manufacturers involved. Ford was involved, Jeep, Chevy, Dodge, Nissan, Toyota. They were all involved, and that's those were some of the best times for me. And my whole racing career was that. Mainly when I look back at it was because manufacturers were involved. You had tire companies, wheel companies, beer companies at the time. Mm-hmm. A lot of that brings other great stories. But there was always Mickey Thompson leads me right into a story. But Mickey Thompson, they always had a host hotel, so all the teams stayed at the same hotel. So after the night of racing, you can imagine when we're all bumping and banging, there's people pissed off. One of the rules during the race was when you finish your heat and you get out, you leave your helmet on for a little bit. You didn't take your helmet off, so you can imagine why. Yeah, a lot of times people be a little bit pissed off. Oh, yeah. When Robbie Gordon came on board and you had Frank and Al Arciero, Walker Evans, Ivan Stewart, Rod Millen, Roger Mears Jr., and there was others, Danny Thompson, different years. But there'd be bumping and banging. There was always someone pissed off. So the rule was, keep your helmet on for a few minutes after, make sure everything's good.
Hey, so since we're talking about rivalries right now, I got a surprise guest on the line for you.
Right on.
His name is Carl Renezeder.
Oh, yeah, right on.
What's up, Carl? How are you doing, buddy? Are you still there?
I won.
Yeah, you
he can't even talk.
So Carl can probably hear us because he's still waiting on the line. I'm going to give you a call back real quick, Carl, and see what's going on with this audio. But so Carl is. I want him to share a couple stories because you guys have had some fantastic battles over the years, man. Like some really, really good ones.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it'll be interesting to see.
Hello.
Carl Renezeder, what's up, bud?
Hey guys,
how are you doing?
Long time no talk.
Yeah, absolutely, Carl. How are you doing? Glad hearing from you.
I'm good. Yeah, likewise. It's good. Life is good.
Hey, so Rob was just telling us a little bit about the Mickey Thompson days. Do you remember when you first got news that a guy named Carl Renezeder was going to start racing again?
Well, I do. I remember there was a guy named Mike Leslie, and he had a Pro 2 with Lucas Oil sponsorship, and I think I remember being back at Crandon. I knew Carl was already racing. I was pretty aware of Carl and racing desert stuff. They used to race a 2-seat Chenlis when they first started, along with the Baldwin family. And Carl started. It's my story, but Carl can correct me when I tell my story. Then you can correct me. But Carl showed up with Mike Leslie running the Pro 2, and that was
what race was that at?
It was. Was it Crandon? Anago?
No, Anago was the first one. I actually had Kurt LeDuc prep a truck of mine, and then I teamed up with Leslie. And I literally showed up in a parking lot. My truck was sitting there, and I don't know if you remember Dennis Elmore, but he worked for Kurt LeDuc, and he was my crew chief, and I just went out and started racing.
Yeah.
Dude, that's the way to do it, man. These old stories are so cool to hear because it would be so difficult to do that nowadays, right?
Yeah, Carl, I'm sure like I did, he raced motorcycles, I know, and I did as well. And, we both had a huge passion for this stuff. And, Carl's success, I can relate to it and also know his success was because of his passion. Honestly, he loved doing it and he went after it. And he went after it hard and he won a lot of races.
So before we get into, I want to ask Carl about maybe a story or so that he remembers. But before, I'm going to tell a little story, and it was about the first short course race that I ever went to, and it was maybe 2012-ish or so, and it was at Wild Horse Pass. And I've told this story a couple times on the show that you guys, both of you and Carl, it was like a knockdown, drag-out MMA match, dude. But it was also like poetry on wheels at the same time, right? And at the end of the race, I think you guys both had your front fenders but no rear fenders.
Yeah.
So it was like that was pretty good, right? But you guys, the tires, you couldn't see the writing on the side of the tires because the tires were smoked. But man, it got me to the point where I was like, shit, this is actually bitching. Like I love this stuff.
Absolutely.
Just because you two.
I would say for the most part though, Rob and I were pretty good. We've had our moments, of course, because we're pushing so hard with 900 horsepower fire breathing dragons under us, but I would say that as far from my perspective, I never drove with somebody as skilled as Rob, being able to race, and work the track and understand, okay, I'm giving up this position, but I know I'm going to get at this next place. That was some of the coolest stuff for me, for sure.
Yeah. Likewise for me, Carl. If there was ever a time that I was laughing and grinning, not winning, it was racing with you. Honestly, I when we got in some of our battles and wheel to wheel and stuff, I trying to work you working me, and whoever came out on top, those were honestly, we had enough battles that that's the ones I appreciate the most of in all my racing career and short course. Honestly, battling with you, the respect that we gave each other, and yes, we as everyone does, we had our run-ins, but for the most part, and I've told you that before. I've told your family and everyone, even Augie, your son, and Frank, who was your spotter cameraman, and some of your mom, your dad, and all that stuff. So some of my best racing memories on the track without winning is actually battling you and trying to work you, honestly. And
Can you imagine?
It was awesome.
So Carl, we have Robert Blanton of Warfighter made in the on the show with us here. He's co-hosting. Rob, could you imagine? Because both of these guys' racecraft is elevated, like it's higher than most people, right? And so could you imagine what because their thought process is probably similar when they're on course, right? They drive different and stuff, but their mentality is kind of the same. Could you imagine what's going on inside their heads and on their face during these times when they're just battling so hard?
The focus is probably,
off the charts.
Off the charts, and I could just imagine the setups and I'm gonna try and push them wide in this corner so I can get on the inside and whatnot. But my first Lures race was around 2013 also, and it was when Warfighter Made was just getting introduced into short course. And, we were a part of the regional series, but then when the nationals came around, it was, especially when Pro 4 was Pro 4, watching you guys was always kind of the highlight. And we were also hanging out in the Rockstar tent. Yeah. So, it's
those were some great racing. I think back and, how glad I am to be part of that. And just, it was an amazing thing when Jim Baldwin had core going on and we were racing at Chula Vista or Pomona when he dug a big hole in the asphalt and racing on the asphalt. Just amazing thing. But, and then, Carl racing in Pro 2 and Pro 4. And how many times, Carl, do you think he won we swept the weekend where you won both Pro 2 and both Pro 4 races?
It was interesting. There was a few, but then, even if you win a lot, you still remember those weekends where you just had just a terrible race and you just felt terrible, it was so up and down, and that's what was great about it though, because you wouldn't appreciate the wins if you didn't have those struggles where it's just like, oh my God, I couldn't even drive today. What the heck happened?
Yeah. Did you guys?
Wasn't working, but
you guys both probably had the same thing. We'll let Carl answer this one, but Carl, did you have any weekends where, let's just say you just got waxed? It was just a bad weekend, whether you're broken down or you just didn't drive good or whatever it was, and the next weekend you just came out swinging against MacCachren here?
Well, there were definitely tracks that I tended to do better at than others. I struggled at the end with Estero Beach, and it's ironic because that's kind of where I first started driving my short course truck, learning and setting it up and everything. So I thought I'd have an advantage there, and it was kind of the opposite. I just couldn't get my truck to work really good in that sand. But like Crandon and some other tracks down in San Diego and Wild Horse, it's just I seem to have my setup pretty good. So. It just kind of depends. And then, remember the tracks prep different all the time too. So it changes. So, you have to be adaptable. And, Rob and I we were always there.
Always.
Carl, just before this, we went to go have some tacos and they were good, but we were chit and chatting. I was trying to talk these two guys into tell them on their bucket list they need to go back to Crandon, and that's a question for you. We want to see you back there too. I know before you retired that you mentioned you wanted to get back there, but someday you need to show up. If you don't show up for racing, maybe come back and hang out.
Yeah, I would love to do that. My family, that was one of their favorite things to do. And one thing now that I'm retired, I didn't realize as much then as I do now is how important those experiences were to my family, my kids, because that affected them so much, being able to go back to the Midwest and to have those experiences at the races and to do the things they wouldn't be able to do, like go to those lakes or see the people run around the pits, all that stuff. That's just a pretty special thing for them.
Yeah, absolutely. As we get older, likewise for myself, same thing, reminiscing. The kids are all getting older. I think all yours are Augie's the only one that's under 20, probably. I know him and Caden are both. I think they're both 19. But all the kids that we call them track kids or track babies. They grew up at the track, and as they get older, you're sitting at the dinner table, or some story comes across, and you think back and you're like, wow, I thought I was hindering these kids and taking them away from other things, but also realizing when they tell stories about how much they appreciated that and getting to see the country and, like you said, different lakes. And but anyways, made a lot of good memories for them as well.
That's one of the things that I think people in racing don't. I don't want to say they don't do, like, how do I say this? You don't, like, for me, I don't conduct an interview about a certain race usually. Like, we don't talk about the race as it was what the hell happened. It was like, what good fun times did you have? And it's exactly what you guys are talking about. Like, you get to experience going fishing while you're there. You get to experience all these different things, because there's so many races that I've done, not as many as you guys, but that I don't remember anything about the race. I just remember the weekend.
Yeah.
Like, the weekend was the fun part, right? Like, so that's cool.
For sure. Yeah. No, and the relationships that you develop over the time and the experiences. I mean, I can guarantee you both Rob and I have more stories than we've forgotten, but, sitting around for a while and talking, just these memories, especially in Baja, because so much stuff happens down there, and, pre-running and the racing and stuff. I don't know. You agree, Rob? I wish I could write them all down, because, I forget them.
What, you guys don't have diaries?
So Walker Evans. So let me go back just a step. So Baja 1000, a lot of you guys don't know, but Carl Renezeder, myself, and Mark Post won the 2007 Baja 1000 overall together. Yeah, so I started. Carl drove in the middle about 300 miles, and then Mark Post finished, and we ended up winning that race. Carl didn't know. He ended up doing his section and went home. And we got down there to the finish line. I think I woke up the next day and I'm like, "Where's Carl?" He went home, and it's like, damn. But anyways,
did you know that, Rob? That they won the Baja 1000 together?
Hell yeah, I knew that.
I didn't know that. That's rad, man.
What the funny story though, Rob, is I remember coming in and seeing you the truck, and you look in and you're like, "Hey, how come you don't have your lights on?" I'm like, "Oh, they don't work." He's like, "Click. How about this switch?"
Yeah. So
do you remember that?
Yeah. So Oren, a lot of you guys know Oren Anderson. He's become a little bit famous, but Oren he pre-ran and rode with Carl, and he also worked for Riviera at the time, and he was Carl's co-rider. And I remember him coming on the radio, and they say, "Yeah, the lower lights, they don't work." And I'm like, "Oh shit, I got to drive, 7 more hours at nighttime." And I'm like, "The lower lights don't work. This is terrible." And they come in at that time. If you remember, Carl, you were down there by Vizcayano, just a little bit north of San Ignacio, and we were pitting on the right side of the highway, but they told you had to go past the pit, make a U-turn, and come backwards to pit the opposite direction, because the fuel was on the driver's side. So, exactly. When I got in the truck, I give Oren shit. I never give Carl shit for that, but Oren, every once in a while, I give him shit for that. I go, "Remember that time we won the Baja 1000 together, and you didn't know how to turn on the lights? You weren't smart enough to turn the lower lights on."
Maybe he was just trying to save them for you, because you had a rougher section.
Yeah,
so.
Yeah.
That's a good story, though, man. So let me catch up on some of the comments here. I think you'll actually dig some of these comments here, Carl. But one of the first ones was John Huppert's asked, "Did you ever race against Jimmy Johnson?" So maybe that's a question for both of you guys.
I never did.
No, I didn't either. I was in Pro 4 when he was in no, I did. Sorry. See, I got to remember my own stories or remember what happened. So, yeah, Mickey Thompson days. Right there at the end of Mickey Thompson, Jimmy moved up from he was racing the little, I forgot what they were called. They were kind of like a trophy cart, but you sat in like an Odyssey. Super light. I think that's what they were called. So he was racing those, then he moved up. Chevy had got their eye on him, and they moved him up into the Grand National Sport Truck. So I raced against him for 1 year. He also went back and raced in the Midwest Series Soda, but he was in Pro 2 and I was in Pro 4, and that must have been before you were doing it, Carl.
Before me, yeah, just before.
And we'd love to have him come back. I keep waiting for Jimmy to come back and dabble in off-road a little bit, but right now he's doing the IndyCar stuff. But hopefully someday we get him back out there.
He might.
And then Caden Danbury asked, I'd like to hear both your guys'. What was your guys' first race vehicles?
So mine, because they told me about it earlier, mine was a high jumper, single seater, no power steering, no radio, no spare tire. It was a Type 1 IRS transmission in a 1.2/1600 car. So it was a car that was sitting completely apart. And I think it was 1981. I was into sports in high school playing basketball, and my dad said, "You want to try off-road racing?" And I said, "Sure, but what if I don't like it?" He goes, "Well, we'll sell the car and move on." So first race I did it, I loved it, and I quit playing basketball, and I went racing.
That's pretty cool. All right, what's this comment over here, Blanton?
Let's see. Seriously, how does Rob always have the perfect hair, especially after he takes his helmet off?
Which
Talking
Rob?
about you. That's you.
Your hair's always perfect, too.
Hey, Carl, you can't see their hair, but both of them have pretty nice-looking hair this evening over here,
nice.
dude.
That's nice.
So Carl, was your first desert car a 2-seat Cheneth?
Yeah, the beam
It
car.
was? Really?
Yeah, and well, it wasn't mine. It was my father-in-law's. He was a real estate guy, and he had an engineer. His name was Bill Church. You probably remember them, Rob.
Yep.
Remember the Church guys? And he was their engineer. So he took them out in the cars because they were big into the Baja stuff. And at the time, I was racing motorcycles, and he bought 2 cars to go pre-run around. So I remember the first time we went and drove them. I went out for the first drive, and we went to what's that dry lake out there behind Big Bear? That's not Soggy, is it?
Yeah, Soggy's out there.
Yeah,
Big Bear, Soggy Dry Lake.
Yeah. So, and that's the one that they have like that road that's like a, raised up, and there's a dry lake. So, anyways, I went out and drove this thing, and I saw this road. It's probably like 5 or 6 feet high, one of those raised elevated roads. And I launched it, and I cleared the road, landed on the flat on the other side.
Oh.
I think I broke it in half.
Dude.
So Jim didn't let me drive it after that for quite a while.
He's going to fix it all.
So for you guys, also this Cheneth that Carl drove was actually built by Butch Dean. So the Valley,
right.
So the Valley Performance Butch Dean. There's a lot of history there with the Collins brothers, Herbst, myself, Jack Johnson, Rolf Tiblin, Bud Feldkamp, and just on and on. But the Church family and the Baldwin family, along with Carl Renezeder, there was a lot of Cheneth cars that came out of there. So, a lot of history. Just thought I'd mention something about that.
The first time I ever heard about a Cheneth was Jeff Furrier from UPR. He had showed me his, and those things are pretty cool, man. I never knew how nostalgic they were.
Yeah, they were.
Hey, Rob, do you remember when I first started driving those, they had the Kernut shocks, which were like the weird needles in the hole, orifice, whatever they call that?
Yep.
And then when they switched them out to Custer, which was the pre King, it was just a huge game changer.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, couldn't even imagine the difference in how much faster you could go.
Yeah, the Kernuts they were pretty cool in their day, and they were the piston had no valving or no valve stack in it. There was just needles. Imagine 6 pins, and 6 pins that went. 2 of them were guide rods, and they went the whole length of the inside of the can, inside the shock, and then there was 4 more that were different lengths, and they'd shut off a hole. So that was really your valving. So it was a pretty amazing thing.
Right.
They were super loose and sloppy around ride height, but until they started closing the holes off, they got stiff. So. Yeah, they were in their day. They were pretty badass, and ultimately, I just dawned on me a couple of years ago. The reason why I like my cars kind of loose and sloppy is that's what I started with. Yeah,
that's what you learned on.
Yeah, that's what I learned on.
That's awesome.
Wow, yeah, they were definitely loose. But I remember they used to like the back would come up a lot easier with that valving, unless we didn't have a valve drive. But I remember when we put on those Custer shocks, man, it was like that car stayed planted, and it was fun. I love those channels.
Yeah, guy named Don Custer my first introduction to him was with Walker Evans, and Don Custer used to ride in the Ram Charger pre-running, and the Ram Chargers had Rancho shocks on them, and they had 16 on each corner. Not that many, but
they had tons of shocks.
And Custer, like Walker, it's like, we got to do something about this, and a guy named Don Custer ended up coming out with the Custer shocks, which was the precursor, like Carl said, to King. And I think some of the King, the father, worked. I believe he worked for Custer. Not sure about that, but
I think you're right.
Yeah, so that was a game changer right there. Time of period in off-road racing, going from the small 2.0 shocks to the at that time the customers were 3s. Yep.
Hey, so David Peace commented in and said that your hair has its own Instagram account.
It did for a while there.
Did it really?
Yeah.
And then Robert Hargis says Rob saved space in his race suit for a comb for perfect hair on every podium. Does Rob know how many Core Lucas races were delayed by the staging so he could finish his story?
Yeah, so Carl was in some of those. We,
on the podium?
Well, no, before and after, but the ones before, we'd end up talking stories. And, you know, how many times, Carl, were we sitting there, you know, waiting for our race up in pre-grid, and the pre-grid guy would come over. They get 10 minutes, 5 minutes, and we keep talking. Pretty soon he's like, they're yelling and screaming, you guys got to get in your trucks. And finally the staging guy, he would, instead of coming over and tell us, he'd just tell race director at that time, in the end, it was Greg Fouts. He'd just tell Greg, it's story time with Rob, so you're just going to have to wait.
And I don't think we ever were talking about racing either.
No.
About everything else.
Absolutely.
Just shooting the shit. That's cool. David also commented in and said, the Carl passing line at the Vegas track, what was that all about?
The Carl passing line.
Did you have some sort of secret line at the track in Vegas?
Well, there was one, and that off for a couple of years, that off camber chicane. Remember that, Rob?
Yeah.
I had a nice little line through there, but I don't know. Is that what they're talking about?
Maybe that's a secret line.
Everybody figured it out. Yeah.
I feel like there's no secret lines on a short course track. What's the next one that actually, you might know this person, Amber?
Amber?
What does Amber say?
Yeah, I know.
She says, so fun fact, Rob and I's daughter, Kayla, is dating Carl's second cousin. Someday that will be a great wedding. The MacCachrens and the Renezeders and the Baldwins under one roof outside of racing.
Also, okay, what the question really is, what vacation are you guys going to go on all together?
I don't know. I don't know if Carl knows, but yeah, I'm sure he knows. Franz is dating Amber's daughter, Kyla, and yesterday we were at the lake together, Lake Mojave so we were having some stories with you, and they brought up, maybe Carl could send us to Fiji.
Oh yeah, that's an easy deal. It's funny. You were just at Lake Mojave?
Yeah.
So about 3 weeks ago, I took my parents. My parents have a place there in Bullhead.
We talked about that yesterday.
and I hadn't been back since Laughlin 2008.
Wow.
To there, just because life busy. So I took my parents up there because they had been in the house for COVID, and I wanted to take them out on the lake. They weren't feeling up to it, so I went out and rented a Sea-Doo, and I went around every single cove from not quite Cottonwood, but all the way. Like the telephone lines down to, in and out. Just so much fun.
Yeah.
I love that lake.
Yeah, it was great.
That's some serious dedication going in and out of every single one.
Oh, yeah. Well, it's like a race course.
Yeah. I'm right with you. Cool. We did the same thing yesterday. We were going in and out, just sightseeing and getting in those, seeing how far in you could go with.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, it's beautiful. And the water there is clear.
Yeah, it was really clear. Surprising yesterday. Yep.
Hey, so when was the first time? Actually, I'd like to ask both of you guys this question. So when you, we'll call it in quotes, met Carl, but when was the first time you were like, wow, this guy's the real deal?
Well, I can tell you a quick story. So, and this goes way back in my memory because, the first exposure I had to Rob was really in the desert, and the most vivid memory I have, and I think I even told you this before, Rob, was down in San Felipe, and I was up ahead of or past Zoo Road crossing, and I was watching the trophy trucks, and it was like, maybe I broke earlier. I don't know what happened, but I was watching, and Rob hit that Zoo Road, and I swear to God, he was as high as the telephone wires, man, or the power wires. I was like, holy shit. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah, back in the day, the Zoo Road used to be a big jump, and it wasn't quite as rough on both sides, so you could hit it and just sail as far as you wanted to.
No, you didn't have to check up at all?
No. Well, we weren't going as fast. Back then, if you were doing 75 up that road, you were going fast, and now, pretty much doing 100 in the bumps.
Carl, do you remember what time frame that was?
Well, it was when he was in the the Ford
Class 8 Rough Rider days.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
So, Rough Rider started 91, went to 96. So I drove Class 8, 91, 92, 93, and then '94 was the first year of the trophy truck.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Do you remember on the opposite end when you first felt like Carl was going to be a heavy hitter competition against you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the beginning, obviously, I pay attention, and I knew that they raced the Chenis, and then Jim Baldwin built for Jason and Josh and Carl. They had some trophy trucks, and
Ryan Cadella.
Yeah, Cadella, yes, and they were pretty successful with those, and then Carl in short course, you could tell that I think he, in my opinion, he got pretty focused on that, and worked at it hard, and whenever typically whenever somebody has passion like Carl did and work hard at it, they're successful, and he did. He got into the short course racing, went all in, and ended up winning a lot of races.
Well, I don't know how you feel, Blanton, but for me, I feel privileged to be talking to both of these dudes. Carl's not here with us, but it's pretty rad, man, because I look up to both the guys in racing.
It's definitely rad just to kind of sit here and listen to them go back and forth,
It is cool. I know that our audience members are definitely digging it as well. You got any funny stories that are kind of off the track stuff, Carl?
Off the track stuff? I mean, not really. I mean, we all kind of had fun at night after pre-run or after races, especially down in San Felipe or down in Cabo. I mean, do you remember? I remember having a bar brawl down in, I don't know if you were there at Squid Row after one of the thousands, and something happened and everybody was clearing out. There was some crazy stuff going on, but I don't know.
Dang, that sounds pretty crazy.
I wasn't there.
Oh, look at this guy. Hey, Rob's probably the one that started it, and then he just took off, right?
Yeah.
Man.
Yeah, we had so many good stories, though. I mean, like I said, just have to remember all of them.
Yeah.
It's like one of those things that you got to sit down by the campfire and start having beers to be able to talk about that stuff, because stuff just pops up every now and then when you're thinking about it.
And make sure somebody's there to record it.
Dude, for real.
And that's me racing with Walker and listening to all his stories back in the late 80s. And that's what I used to say is, man, somebody needs to be writing this stuff down. And for 30 years, I've been saying somebody needs to be writing all this stuff down.
Yeah. Nice thing about it is we have a little bit more technology nowadays, so I'm glad that you guys are both giving us the opportunity to be able to share some of these stories. So one of the things that I wanted to ask Rob, Carl, was his Mount Rushmore of off-road. And I mentioned to him, you are also on my Mount Rushmore of off-road, but he is as well. Do you have a Mount Rushmore of off-road, Carl?
What do you mean by that? What do you mean by Mount Rushmore?
What's your top dogs in off-road to fill Mount Rushmore? So, like, if I were to pick my Mount Rushmore of off-road, it would be yourself, Rob, and a couple other guys. I was really a big fan of Evan Evans. I would probably put Ivan Stewart up there. And how many presidents are on Mount Rushmore? 5?
4, I think.
4, yeah. So that would be mine right there. So, do you know off the cuff who you'd put up there?
Well, 100% Rob. I mean, there's no question. There's been a couple guys that were important to me. Rod Millen was one of them. I really looked up to him, and he kind of took me under his wing, and I really thought a lot of him. I mean, who else? I mean, there's Robbie Gordon. There's Walker Evans, of course. I mean, we can go all the way back. Jimmy Johnson. I mean, there's a lot of guys that are phenomenal. Frank Vessels. Remember him?
Yep.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, Frank Scoop Vessels. He was a BFG guy and
an innovator at the time.
He was that too, but he drove Class 8 truck and.
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't like winning a lot of races, but I just think he had some sort of impact. But I don't know. I would say for sure Rod Millen, and I would say Walker Evans.
Yeah, those are all good, man.
Yeah.
What do you think, Rob? I mean, is that
no, absolutely. It's funny you said Rod Millen, because in my Mickey Thompson years, when Walker Evans hired me in '89, I actually only made it a year and a half, and I got fired, which honestly was one of the best things that ever happened in my life from short course. So really? I sat out, but when I went back and sat in the grandstands, I realized, Walker wasn't really helping me that much with my driving, but I ended up watching Rod Millen, and I said, once I sat out and started watching again, I'm like, I see what I'm doing wrong now. And anyway, so I in short course racing, I looked up to Rod Milne, like you're saying, and then obviously in the short course, like Lucas Oil, that kind of stuff, yourself, everything, all the wins that you've done, and that's why I brought up the point earlier about, I don't know, has anyone else ever swept? I know I never did, swept Pro 2 and Pro 4 in a weekend. It's quite likely that you're the only one that ever did that. Could that be true? And you probably did it more than once. So, you and
I can't think of anybody either.
No, I don't think anybody else did. I know I wanted to try, but realizing it's super hard.
So many good guys.
I bet Carl might have done it 5 times. Honestly, it seems to me like,
I don't know.
You did it enough to definitely make me to take notice and me to try it. And I know I never got one, but and you and I, when you retired, we were very close into the same amount of short course wins. And
absolutely
today,
identical. Yeah,
exactly. And right now, I think we're still quite a bit above anyone else. I know Kyle LeDuc probably just hit 100 total, and then but he also
Do you each know, Carl? Do you know how many wins you have altogether?
I don't know. I like 125, maybe 124, something like that.
And Rob, do you remember?
It's somewhere similar to Carl. I think I got him by a little bit. He retired 1 year earlier. I know when he was retiring, we were super close. They started
nose and nose.
Yeah.
Talk about a privilege, man. Just think about how many wins we're talking to on the phone right now, Rob.
Well, just in short course, the Lucas Oil type short course, between the two of us, were around 250.
Holy smokes, man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Good God. That is so cool, man. Well, I know, Carl, you got a lot of stuff going on in your life right now. We really appreciate you calling in, man. It was fantastic to talk with you. We'd love to maybe get you on the show one of these days. That would be pretty cool.
Yeah, I think you should.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
It was nice talking to you, Rob. I haven't talked to you probably since the last time we were at the race.
Yep. Likewise. We'll see you soon.
That's awesome.
See you, Crandon.
And by the way, I heard your son's really doing well. So congratulations. And good luck with that.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
Caden is doing really well. That's awesome. We're going to actually talk about that a little bit, Carl. So thanks for giving us a segue, brother. Have a good one.
Thanks, guys. Take care.
We'll see you
later, Carl.
Bye.
Man, it's so cool to understand that. Like, Robert Blanton, when you hear these guys talk with the amount of respect that they have towards each other, but the amount of adrenaline over the years that they've spent on each other, holy smokes, dude! Can you imagine?
It's cool, me being relatively new to off-road, and when I stepped into off-road, these Carl and Rob Mack were the guys that we were all looking at.
Yeah.
And now, Carl retired, 3 or 4 years ago? Sitting here with Rob Mack now and, listening to these two guys talk, it's pretty cool. It's awesome. It's awesome being here and experiencing that.
I'm telling you, we were just talking about the pre-runner being like, how many stories it could tell. Can you imagine if we did actually have a camping trip and sit by the fire with a couple beers, man?
Add beer. Those stories will come out.
Well, and then get some of the older guys like Walker Evans and love the opportunity for the people that aren't here anymore, like Bruce Myers, who passed away this year. And just have them sit down and start talking about, kind of pioneering all this stuff and what it was like then to what it's like now. You were talking about needle valve shocks.
Yeah.
What were those guys dealing with back then,
It would be it would probably be hard for some of us newbies to understand.
I mean? It's a story that I realize it's been maybe 10 years ago, and some kids that were 15, 16, 17 years old came up to me and they're like, oh my gosh, Rob Mack signed my shirt and everything else, and how did you get started? And I was telling the story and I said, and then I raced for Walker Evans, and they said, who's Walker Evans?
Yeah.
And I realized, holy shit, but that's the realization, it's starting to happen to me now is there's, as soon as I retire and you start not racing, these young kids come up and they get involved in the sport and it's their passion, and then they don't remember what happened.
Dude, I can even take it up one notch. Like, I was just interviewing young kids at Four Wheel Parts. Caden Danbury helped me co-host, and Jacob Peter, which is a Polaris racer as well. Both of them are young. I think they're 14, 13 years old. But I said, who is your favorite driver? and they chose Seth Quintero, who's a baby compared to us. Like,
Yeah.
it's like, to me, it's like the level, they're the generations are so different, but it's so cool because you got to respect every single person coming through, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
It's neat to see. So John Lewis actually commented in and said, this is actually probably something that you can chime in on, Rob. Super Lights is where Jimmy Johnson started. Then he drove the second truck for Nelson and Nelson with Rick Johnson. And I don't know what the Nelson and Nelson stuff is.
Yeah, Nelson and Nelson, John Nelson, they ran the Chevy team, and they were actually, right now my race shop's in San Jacinto, and the Nelson Nelson shop was right over here in Hemet. We went to dinner a little bit ago, and I was showing you where the old Venable shop is. Just a stone throw away from here is the old Venable shop that I raced for, 91 to 96. Dave Westham ran out of here. Larry Miners from here. There's some ties with Rod Hall. Like we said, Nelson and Nelson, and on and on. I think, Hemet, San Jacinto area back in the day had a lot of the off-roaders coming from here. So that last statements are true about Jimmy racing the Nature's Recipe Super Lights and then racing for Chevy Thunder, and that was his way with Chevrolet into NASCAR.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Not very many people can say that they race against Jimmy Johnson.
Yeah.
So that's pretty neat. John Hubbard also said, is it better races in the States or in Mexico?
That's
it probably a preference, right?
Well, I always love going to Mexico. Baja's special. Rob, you've been going to Nora, and it's a special place, and I think forever and always that'll be my favorite. There's good races in the States too. I used to love racing the old Barstow tracks, and we had multiple roads next to each other. I love Parker. I love racing anywhere and everywhere, but Baja is definitely at the top of my list.
I think a better question is, like, what do you prefer, desert racing or short course?
That's always been a tough one. Somebody always said, if you had to choose, which one do you do? Well, with my racing career, I always had to go out and solicit funding and sell sponsorship. And the easiest way for me to sell sponsorship was for short course racing. Yeah. So, and that short course racing helped get my desert program started. So it was always tough for me to choose because I wanted to say desert, but I knew, my bread and butter was with the short course. Now things are changing a little bit, and ultimately, if you look back at it, the experiences that the desert racing give you, whether it's pre-running in Baja or the longer races, the more time, desert racing is definitely, as I get older and I look back, desert racing is really where it's at for me. It's really from all the memories and the stories.
But less helmet head in short course racing. You got better hair coming out of the car, right?
And I always say that, short course is more fan friendly. It's a 1 to 2 day event where desert racing can be
drawn out. Yeah.
Right. And if you wad up big time in short course, safety's right there.
Yeah.
True. And you're getting towed off the track. You're getting brought back to your pit area, you load up and you figure out what went wrong. Open desert racing,
But I think you could go both, like teeter-totter on both of that, because that means when I'm listening to you say this, I'm thinking, wow, desert racing is really hard then, because you're so out there. You're doing it all on your own, right? And then, but the short course is also a little bit more intense, so you could go back and forth all the.
Well, Warfighter Made doesn't desert race like Rob Mack desert races, right? But every time we go out there, it's, because we're going so slow, we get a second to break focus and look around, right?
You're going fast enough to make a big old angry dude throw up.
Yeah. And a shout out to the Manx clubs. There's the guys out there in the Super Manxes that we ended up finishing ahead of them. How, I still don't know, but out of 100 vehicles, we finished 42nd overall, starting 87th. And those guys would always, like, every time we either had to come up behind you to pass or saw you in our mirrors, we were like, oh God, how is this Humvee even anywhere near us? Total confidence sapping, whatever. And we're like, oh, thanks, man. Appreciate it.
So when I was fixing the audio, were you guys talking about you going down to Nora then, Rob?
Yeah, a little bit. I keep saying, racing for me has turned into, pretty intense at times. It's a job,
yeah.
I know sponsors and people expect me to win. And back in the day, come home from a race, I didn't win, and my friends, they'd bust my chops. And what do you mean you didn't win? So I put a lot of that pressure on myself too, and I can't wait. I keep saying I want to go to Nora, I want to go race that because at the end of the day, I want to have a beer, and go the next day. Well, right now it doesn't seem like that's possible, but I've been telling Rob thinking about it for probably almost 2 years now. Like, I know they've been going. It's like when I go, I'm going to help them. So
that would be pretty cool.
One of the cool things for me personally and for Warfighter Made is, you have one of the winningest off-road drivers in history.
Well, Lindsay Geyser said it great this morning. She said the GOAT.
The GOAT. You got the GOAT right here. And he comes out to one of our events. He's, driving his Polaris RZR, and he comes up to me afterwards, and he's just like, I had a really good time. I forgot how fun off-road can be.
Dude, that's so rad.
So I'm like, I'm drying my eyes. I'm like, I'm never going to forget this ride back. And, but now it's like, you pioneer, you made this sport, you've carried it this far into, where we are now. Come with us and have some fun.
Yeah. I'm all about it.
Let's have some fun. And any vets that are out there watching this right now or listening to this or seeing this later, that's what Warfighter Made's all about. We take all vets, all branches, all eras. We have Polaris RZRs to do adrenaline therapy Saturdays with, but we also, we have quickly become known as the military vehicle race guys. And we have a whole host of vehicles that we like to do either short course or desert races with. And we just so happen to been pretty lucky at it and doing well and having a ton of fun.
Have you ever driven a Humvee, Rob?
No, I have not.
Yeah.
So, hey, look.
He'd get in it and he'd be like, wow, this is so underwhelming.
That would be pretty cool to see, though. At least to get a picture of him in the seat, right?
Yeah.
And just pretend.
Well, I tell you, this last ATS that we just did this on the 8th of May, I got to give a ride in Beefy, our Humvee, named after Angus Beefy Powers, who passed away last year. I got to give a Korean War vet and a Vietnam vet, Marine, a ride in Beefy. And he's got stage 4 cancer, and he knows he's on his way out, and he's just trying to pack as much fun into, what remaining time he has left. And his grandson posted a video, and he's just smile ear to ear. And I'm doing a whopping 30 miles an hour around the track because it can't go any faster. And, so it's stuff like that. And then we got to celebrate a 61st birthday with a lady who's never done anything like that. And her son-in-law is a veteran, and get to give her a ride on her 61st birthday, and she loved it. So,
dude, that's fantastic. How many people ask you, dude, can you just take me for a ride in the truck? You know what I mean? And they're actually doing stuff similar, at least, on a different level, but it's cool.
And Caden Danbury got to give a 91-year-old lady a ride in his RZR. And apparently, he was doing hey, if you're good, keep the thumbs up, or if you want to go faster, give me a thumbs up, and if something's wrong, just give me a thumbs down. I guess she was like this the whole time. Go faster, go faster, go faster.
Quit being a little sissy. Take me on a real ride. That's cool.
Caden's my man.
And then Scott Wren just commented in and said, how about Rob giving Johnny Greaves his first ride in Class 4 Pro 4? You remember that?
Trying to remember. Oh, okay. So he actually, at first I was thinking he actually rode with me. No, that's not what happened. Right, Scott? I think what you're referring to is the first race it wasn't this truck. It was a different 1996. I think it was an Ortho Lawn and Garden sponsored truck. And it was a brand new truck, came last minute to the racetrack in Lake Geneva. And I ended up indoing it. I thought, no test time, no shock tuning, no nothing. I think I started 4th. I came around. I was in 2nd place, and I thought to myself I could win this thing with no test time, and I ended up indoing it, hurt my back, and then we were actually sharing a shop with Johnny Greaves and ended up asking Johnny if he would drive my Pro 4 the next day. So, and Johnny did. So,
dude, the off-road community coming together.
But what's rad is that you have viewers and listeners that are so into the dirt life.
Yeah.
That this is stuff that impacts them, and they want to know about. That's awesome,
dude. The
I just
memories,
dig
like
that.
I know who Scott is, but like the memories that these guys have. I mean, like I'm learning, right? Like Rob said, we're kind of newbies in the scheme of things, sitting next to you, but the memories that I have are very vivid, and these people have just as much or more. Yeah. Like, it's pretty rad. So what's this comment here? I know the reason I want you to ask this one, Rob, is because you guys share a sponsor.
Love that new paint scheme, Rob. He's running the BF Goodrich truck now, and it does. It's a phenomenal looking. We share a sponsor with BFG. So.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been with BF Goodrich since 1991. So. Yeah, and this year the truck was all black, and it's like we got to do something special, and ended up, looking at BF Goodrich.
Who doesn't love red, white, and blue, man? Like,
absolutely.
It does look pretty sick. And so some of the stuff, I was looking for some pictures when we were doing your guys' intro, and some of the pictures that are from the San Felipe 250, the truck looks really good. Like, just the black doesn't look that good in the dust. But the red, white, and blue, like you can see it through the dust and stuff. It looks awesome, man.
Yeah, definitely got a lot of good comments.
So let's see here. We got a couple other comments, but desert requires a bigger crew and becomes much bigger a family. Well, I don't know about the family portion of it, but the crew does.
Well, and for the Nora, we went down with 6 people.
Right.
Period. 4 vets that
Are we calling this skeleton crew?
Yeah, because we've gone down before with tons of people. We did 20-something people one time when we had 2 vehicles for the 50th anniversary of the Nora. But this time we went down with a total of 6 people, 4 vets, 2 chase, and we had a great time. I mean, it really was a perfect amount of people for what it was.
Can you give us a comparison? How many people do you take to a let's say a Peninsula run, and then how many do you take to a Crandon?
Peninsula run, we've had a little over 100 people.
Wow.
And the reason for that is, when typically a Peninsula run lately's been over 1,000 miles, so we'll pit 6 times, and each one of those fuel pits has to be separate. They can't be the same people.
Okay.
So pretty much have about 15 people in each of those pits. And then chase trucks, the trophy trucks keep getting faster and faster, so the chase trucks down the highway, they have a hard time keeping up.
So you need more.
So we need more, and I've kind of stationed or divide up the race into 3 sections. I have the top, third, that chase guy's there, and then in the middle, and then at the end. So we've ended up having the last few Peninsula runs over 100 people, whereas in short course racing with one truck, we may have, 8 or 10 or 12 people. So definitely a different amount of people.
Yeah. That is a much, much bigger difference. So David is actually pretty right. I don't know what Stetson said, but meant by this, but said DVR in the house.
So DVR is Desert Vets Racing. They're another nonprofit that takes vets, puts them in as passengers, and they race really all kinds of races, a lot of the local district type races, but they were just out at the clear, what was it, 300 that just happened?
Oh, Silver State?
The Silver State, yeah. They just ran the Silver State, so.
Right on. Do you have any intentions of doing any Best in the Desert stuff or no?
This year there's nothing on the schedule for me at this point, just doing the score stuff.
Mint or no?
Mint, possibly. It's right after the Baja 1000, so
just see how things go.
See how things go. We're still at this, with last year with COVID and everything, the direction was, hey, I was doing these races, and then in the end, didn't do some of them, did other ones. And this year, so far, things are kind of staying in line, and we'll see if that all happens. But right now, the plan is doing the score races, and we'll talk about the Mint later in the year. It's so close to the 1,000. With the same truck, it'd just about be impossible.
It's crazy how 2021 everything's so staggered and scattered around. And Jacob Deltzer, sorry, bud, we've been talking so much, but he actually asked, "Is there any 2021 short course plans? Come out, champ."
Yeah, there's we sold the 2 Pro 2s, still have the Pro 4 here. And I've been eyeing up the Midwest Series back there. There's definitely a lot of good things happening back there. They'll be on TV this year. We'll see what happens.
It should be pretty cool, man. I would love to see you back on a short course track. So there's a couple comments that are coming in. I'm going to go, maybe you could take this one with Scott Wren, but John Huppert's asked, the most dangerous part of being in Baja is watching out for all the chase drivers.
More people, more chasers die in Baja than the racers do.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
What's the reason for that? That seems weird.
it's just, well, first of all, there's more of them,
Right.
right? In numbers. And then two, these guys are they're pushing, quote unquote, just as hard, but the focus isn't there.
Oh, because they're thinking about something else.
Well, I mean, they're on a asphalt road, and by the way, the Baja. Well, you were just down in San Felipe. Baja, all the roads down there, Highway 1 is all paved now, and it's just so amazing. Or 3 or whatever that is.
Yeah.
And but more chasers lose their life down there than the racers do.
We could get into all those stories about safety and stuff, but I'm just going to say I'm a big proponent of safety. So if anybody has any suggestions, please tell the race organizers, because we could definitely use some more safety.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing too is that the roads are significantly more narrow down there, and so when you're chasing and you have a trailer, another vehicle's coming at you, whether it be a local semi truck or just another chase truck or whatever, there's not really room to move to the right when you're passing each other. So sometimes
like a true single lane road.
It is a true single. And then for whatever reason, Mexico or Baja likes to put these concrete pillars right on the side of the road. And my biggest fear has always been, especially towing a trailer, either getting too far off the road and catching the rear of the trailer on one of those concrete pillars, or having a big rig catch the other side of the trailer.
Yeah.
Right.
You got to be on your A game when you're down there.
You learn to know how to whip the trailer around the semi. Like,
you really
semi's
do.
coming the other way, you do the whip.
really
or you
do.
got the concrete
So it
post on
cracks
the
back
right.
at the right
Oh,
time.
it's-
Yeah.
The farther you get south, and over time, all the years I've been going, the road keeps getting a little better. But those concrete posts that you're alluding to, those used to be the white line, which a long time ago there was no lines. They didn't paint any lines. So now they have the lines, but in the concrete posts were actually right there on the side of the road, like really close. So,
Dude, that's crazy.
take out an axle.
And then you start learning don't drive at night, because the donkeys and the cows come out onto the roads at night, and also the 18-wheelers, they kind of own the roads at night and stuff, and so you learn a lot of that stuff.
So Scott also commented in, we're going to go to a commercial break in about 10 minutes here. So, but let's answer Scott what he was talking about, a story here. He said, what about the pro buggy days where Rob was forced to start last? What was that all about?
Well, that's okay. So that's a good story.
Let me finish what he said real quick.
Okay.
And then has the lead at the Comp Yellow. Again, was forced to go back to last at Comp Yellow and still won in the days of 30-plus cars. Jim Baldwin loved Rob.
Yeah. So, story goes, so earlier on the show, we told you about in 2001, I got the letter from Marty Reed saying my truck's illegal. So I didn't race short course all the way until 2007, and I was starting to miss it. Well, I did go, when Jim Baldwin invited me back, I did go to Chula Vista one weekend, but I started missing it again between, say, 2004 and 2007. I started missing it, and I'm like, I got to do something. At that time, John Cooley was building me the buggy, my pre-run buggy, and I kept going to him, like, hey, you need to look into building these super buggies. And he's like, I don't have time for that. Well, one day he called me up, he goes, well, would you do a beam or A-arm? And I go, I don't know. Let me think about it. So we kept talking about it, finished my buggy, and one day he called and said, hey, you need to come down and look at my super buggy. And I'm like, oh, shit, I didn't want one. He goes, no, it's mine. I'm building it. So I ended up going down there and looking at it, and I ordered one because I said, this is my way to get back into short course racing. And we're getting it built. It was about 2/3 of the way done. I got a phone call from Steve Barlow, at that time was running Red Bull Pro 2, and he said, hey, I was talking to BF Goodrich, Frank D'Angelo, and they said you've been wanting to get back into it. Are you interested? I said, heck yeah. I go, I'm building the super buggy right now, and would you mind can I drive the buggy and the Pro 2 at the same time? And he goes, no problem. So I go, count me in. He says, okay, I'll get back to you. A couple weeks later, I got a phone call from Core, and they said, hey, we received your super buggy entry and also Pro 2 entry. You can't race a pro class and super buggy. At that time, it wasn't a pro class. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you got to be kidding me. Like, I've got this money invested in the super buggy, and now it's not even done, and it's worth, I got to sell it, and I can't do it.
Where am I going to put it? Yeah.
Yeah, because, and back to saying again, the name used to be super buggy. It was not a professional class. And I'm like, oh my God, what do I got myself into? So I was in Baja pre-running when I got the news, and I said, I'm calling Jim Baldwin because, this ain't right. I'm pissed. And I called the office, and the secretary said, he's in a meeting right now. I said, you tell him I want to talk to him. She goes, I can't. He's in a meeting right now. I go, you tell him I want to talk to him right now. So he got on the phone, and we chatted, and he was yelling at me, and he goes, you don't need to be in a buggy. And I'm like, I'll tell you what. I go, you take my entry. You take me out of that Pro 2. I'm driving that super buggy. He slammed the phone down. About a week later, he called me, and he says, okay, I fixed the problem. We're going to call it Pro Buggy now.
Oh, perfect.
So he let me do it, and I was racing Pro Buggy and Pro 2, and at that time I had a newer Illumicraft car, and we were doing really well. And he said, Rob, you're stinking up the show. He goes, you got to start at the back. And I said, okay, that'll be fun for me. And so I started in the back at the beginning, and we'd get all the way through, and we'd win. And he said, okay, that's it, Rob. He goes, you start at the back at the beginning, and at the halfway yellow, you're going to the back again. And let's try it. Well, I couldn't win anymore, but I was still having fun, grinning and stuff. And we were at Chula Vista at the quarry down there, and I remember finishing in the buggy and put it away, and I was running back up to the grandstands to watch the Pro 4 race because I was only racing Pro 2 and the Pro Buggy at the time. And as I was going up the stairs, Greg Aronson and Ron Fleming from FAT Performance, they did my motors, and they were coming down, and I'm like, hey, what's happening? And they go, not much. We didn't win. And I'm like, oh. They did my motors.
Yeah.
And I continued walking up the stairs, and I went straight to Jim Baldwin. I said, we can't do this anymore. He goes, no, that was the best thing ever. I go, no, you don't understand. I have partners and people that are helping me so that I can win and help them win and sell their products. So from that point on, I think I only raced, maybe that rest of that season, and it was over. But anyways, good times.
It's a pretty hardcore situation at the time for you when you're walking up and you have to talk with all these people. But that's another thing that changed the face of the short course racing. Like that literally made changes to have what you see nowadays.
Absolutely.
That's pretty cool.
Scott Rain, awesome question, man.
Yeah.
All the buggies before that were beam cars.
Yeah.
And for most of them, I mean, there's very few A-arm cars, and when John Cooley Illumicraft did that, basically now all the Pro Buggies are AM cars, almost all of them.
It's so crazy how times change and how just things progress. Hey, so we're going to take a quick commercial break. We got a bunch of questions or comments that come in. Troy, we're going to answer yours in just a little bit. And after the break, we're going to play Are You Smarter Than a Third Grader with these guys. So Instagram Live, you guys keep hanging on, and we'll be right back.
Hello, I'm Justin, the founder of Shock Therapy. Shock Therapy has been around for 5 years, but we have personally been tuning suspension on off-road cars and race vehicles for over 25 years. We tune between 10 and 15 cars per day, every single day of the week. Our concentration is tuning shock systems and supplying components that improve the ride quality of your car in many ways. Not only do we work on the average UTV, but we also tune suspension for race teams and professional drivers. We currently tune for over 87 race teams in Best in the Desert and Score. Our clients and race teams rely on our suspension components to allow them to win races and keep them safe. Suspension is a moving target. We are always trying to hit that target with every customer that we work with. Each customer's needs can be different, and we tune our kits accordingly. Our research and development never stops. We improve our components every single day. As the industry evolves and improves, so do our parts and kits. As of right now, we have over 100 products for UTVs. So when you bring your car to us, you have the satisfaction of knowing that you have the most experience, the highest quality products, and the fact that your car is being tuned specifically to you.
Zollinger Racing builds the best aftermarket products available. Products for your UTV or snowmobile, including billet radius rods, billet tie rods, billet steering knuckles, billet steering racks, alternator kits, and much more. All manufactured in the United States in-house at their headquarters in Nibley, Utah. Travis Zollinger and his team test in some of the most brutal conditions, racing in places like the Best in the Desert Mint 400, Ultra 4 King of the Hammers,
UTV World Championships, and many more. Visit ZollingerRacingProducts.com and use the code DIRTLIFE to get 10% off your next purchase, and join us on social media at Zollinger Racing Products to see our products in action. Zollinger Racing, the best products, period.
Finally, we got Lance from Solderweld in the studio. Thanks for coming down, bud. Hey, why don't we just record a commercial now?
Yeah, why not? So good to be here, man. It's been a lot. I've been trying to get down here forever, and I wanted to talk about the off-road kit.
Dude, I love those things. I got it in my pack.
Yeah, we're running hundreds of vehicles now running them, whether it's a UTV or some guy's got it in a backpack on his motocross. He's got everything he needs to make a fix right there on the fly, out on the trail, or in the desert, whatever it is.
Well, since I've already used one, I kind of know what to use it for, but explain what it does.
All right, so let's pull one out real quick. You've got your aluminum rods. Remember, they're rods, right? So, light torch, small torch, you can throw it in there or throw it on the rig with your flux. It decontaminates and cleans like, let's say, a radiator. You get a random rock chip runs through as you're racing. You get a rock chip in a radiator. You got to fix it right there or you're out of the race.
You can patch it up. It's
all good to go.
Yep, just like welding.
Yeah, also as well with that, you've got a brake line fix. So with your flux, you can fix a brake line, stainless steel, and then your hot block, heat absorption putty. So it keeps you from getting burned, number one, as well as keeps the heat from traveling. So it's really nice.
I've used this not even to fix anything, so that stuff works so good, man.
Listen, it's easy. It straps in nicely so that you have everything you need in one little place, and you don't have to carry a big bag in
it's
the
like a first
truck.
aid kit for your vehicle.
Yeah, chase trucks have it as well, so that if they need to make a fix on the fly, they can get it done and get it done quick and get you back in the race.
Dude, those things are so cool. All right, so it's at Solderweld on Instagram, Facebook, and solderweld.com.
Awesome.
All right, thanks, bud.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, we are back. Thank you guys again for joining us on episode 84 of the Dirt Life Show. We got our featured guest, Rob Mack, sitting right here to my left. We got Robert Blanton from Warfighter Made sitting to my far left. This has been an awesome show so far. Storytime with the Robs has not disappointed. That's for dang sure. But we're going to stop doing stories for 5 or 10 minutes, and we're going to do a battle royale. Are you smarter than a third grader? Are you guys ready for this? No.
Yeah,
Okay.
I already know the answer. Absolutely no.
Rob Mack wants to go back to story time.
Story time.
You guys would have had an advantage if you saw the last episode of the Dirt Life Show with Caden Danbury, who is a very big proponent of Are You Smarter Than a Third Grader, and with Jacob Peter, because these are the same questions. I was too lazy to find other ones. So you could have got all the answers already. All right, we're going to get straight into it. No sitting at the starting line waiting for Best in the Desert. The first Thanksgiving was celebrated by Native Americans and what other group of people?
Pilgrims.
Okay, Rob got it. Pilgrims.
Which Rob?
Okay, we'll just go by last names. All right, Blanton got it. All right, so he's off to a good start. He's got a whole shot. Look at this. Question number 2. Name the American president on the $50 coin who was assassinated in 1963.
Would it be Kennedy?
Kennedy.
Yeah. I got to say, MacCachren got it on that one. All right, so
I think he was helping me out on that one.
all tied up 1-1 right there. Okay, cool. So question number 3, here we go. What is the name of the book about a friendship between a spider?
Winnie the Pooh.
Oh, close.
Charlotte's Web.
I didn't even finish the question.
How many books are about spiders and a pig?
And a pig named Wilbur. Charlotte's Web. All right, Blanton gets that one. So 2-1 so far. All right.
Believe it or not, I read when I was a kid.
Question number 4, and this one stumped me. So what's the name of a body of land that is completely surrounded by water?
An island.
Got that? Okay.
That stumped you? Like, that's probably the only one on the whole thing I'll get.
When
Is that the answer?
So now I look like a complete ass. We're just going to skip over it. I'm going to go on question number 5.
It's called the Hawaiian Islands for a reason.
All right, question number 5 here. What is the capital of New York?
New York.
Oh, close. A couple people have answered that, but it's not New York. It starts with an A and ends with Albany.
Albany.
Yeah, there you go. So it's Albany. All right. Good job, Blanton.
And ends with Albany.
All right, Blanton, you got it. All right. Well, you guys were sitting there for too long. I was like, we can't have dead air for that long. Question number.
I just ran into my old report cards.
Oh, really?
They weren't very good.
Yeah.
I was drawing race cars.
Yeah, dude, that's funny that you say that because when I was going to school, I was always drawing little dirt bikes. Like, hey, quit looking at the answers over here, champion.
He's got to be a champ in everything he does.
So pre-running and reading the questions. How about that? Okay, question number 6 here. What is the closest planet to the sun?
Mercury.
Dude, you studied up.
I got kids, man. Well, actually, my youngest is 23, so
That's not even close to 3rd grade, dude. All right, so question number 7. What is, and by the way, the funnest game, Are You Smarter Than the 3rd Grade, that I've ever played was with Ronnie and RJ Anderson.
That was a good one. I remember that one.
That competitive spirit that they had was off the chain, man. It was so good. All right. What is H2O also known as?
Water.
I'm going to give it to him.
Thank you.
Give it to him because he's so far behind right now.
What is the score? Do you know how many points you have? 4?
No.
Okay.
No.
I think you got 4.
Something to zip.
Solve this equation. 3 plus 2 divided by 1 equals
5.
Oh, math guy over here. So we need more math questions. That's how we do it.
No more for me.
That's like timing. Like,
yeah.
So when I'm racing and they're giving me splits, I have to like figure that out.
Yeah, you could figure it out super quick. Were you good in school? What was your favorite subject?
There was none.
Recess?
Leaving.
Getting out of there and going and do whatever you wanted to do. All right.
We only got to zip my lip on that. Tell them what happened in school. That's not a good school role model.
Who invented the light bulb in 1879?
Thomas Edison.
That was a good one. He thought of it at the same time. You just spoke before him. So okay, a gallon of water.
8 pounds.
Dude,
it's more than gas. Yeah.
How much is a gallon of gas?
We were actually
just 6.6, I think.
We were just talking about that yesterday. If a dog jumps in the water and gets saturated, does it get heavier as it's running around?
I would assume so, right? Like your truck has mud on it kind of thing?
I guess so. I don't know. We never figured it out, but we're like, well, water weighs 8 pounds. So
you know why I know that?
Why?
It's because I used to race a limited class and it had a minimum weight.
Oh.
So when you get to the finish line and you burn stuff off, your car's got to make weight. My cars are always very, very close.
Yep.
And so I learned that if you do well and they soak you with water, it saturates in the seat, and then the car gets a little heavier.
Nice.
Ooh.
Hey, there you go.
I don't race limited cars anymore.
Racing tips by Rob Mack.
Yeah, exactly. We used to measure fuel and do all that stuff, but nothing like the water, man. That's a pretty good one.
I never did that.
Never, ever.
Good one.
What is the primary difference between ocean water and tap water?
Salinity, the salt.
Yeah, salt. It's 3rd graders, so it's salt. What is the freezing point of water?
32 degrees.
Oh, I'm giving it to Rob Mack.
You got to give it. If I'm even close, you give it to me. Thanks.
No problem, dude. We got you covered over here.
Remember, I gave you $1.
Dude, apparently we're surrounded by a genius with Blanton over here.
No, yeah, with 3rd grade questions. If you were asking 4th grade questions, I'd be freaking drooling on myself right now.
Oh, here we go. This is a kind of a racing question because it has to do with coming over jumps and stuff. What is the force that causes objects to fall to the ground?
Gravity.
Boom. Got it. Okay. What is the capital of Nevada?
Las Vegas. No.
Well, that pretty much is what everybody
Carson
thinks
City.
about. Yeah, Carson City. So nobody knows what the capital of Las Vegas is. I don't know what New York's was either. In what country is the famous Taj Mahal located?
India.
Yeah, got it. I think you guys tied. We're going to call it
Perfect.
a tie. So next time, I'm buying tacos since you guys tied. So that was pretty fun, though. I always think those 3rd grader questions are super cool because it at least gets a little bit of ice broken and a little bit of competitive spirit on the set. So I'm glad that you guys
pissed me off.
He's so pissed right now. He's fired up.
He's like, you know what? Get in a freaking vehicle right now.
Yeah, let's see who wins if I get a steering wheel, motherfucker. So Troy commented in and said, "Hi guys, I'm from Wisconsin and love the short course tracks and have never been to a desert race. Which one would you recommend as a must-see event?" Well, that's a loaded question because you're talking to Baja guys right here, and you might only be able to go to the United States. I don't know what.
Mint.
Yeah, I think the Mint's the no-brainer because traveling into Vegas, the amenities there, they have tech and contingency downtown sometimes for 2 days. A lot easier to see it, figure it out, and get more out of it.
The Mint 400 definitely.
Yeah, and 3.5 lane wide. Mike Gilson commented in and said, "Hate to ask, but how many bystanders get hit in the desert?" I think he's talking about the people like trying to film and do all that stuff. I don't know.
Been a while. I think it's been a while.
Yeah,
it's been a little while. So, it's definitely the fans in Baja.
There's no rules.
Yeah, there's no rules. There's we're racing. San Felipe was just I think it was 280-mile loop, and there's no fence. They can go watch anywhere they want, but and they're fanatics down there, so they want to see it, feel it, hear it. They're we as off-road racers, that we're the only live sport. They don't have professional basketball, baseball, stuff like that in Baja,
right?
And so we're the biggest thing they see, and
it's the big show down there.
The drivers, the Robbie Gordons and Ivan Stewart's Walker in Baja, they're like gods, and all up and down the peninsula. It's an amazing thing. So,
I'll tell you though, obviously whenever you see a trophy truck or a trick truck or whatever, you calling it at that point, the locals are losing their minds.
Right.
In my opinion, the next most popular vehicle down there is Class 11.
Yeah, the Volkswagens.
They love the Volkswagens, and my homie Danny Naveau and I got to drive the Mag 7 Class 11 in the Mexican 1000 in 2019, and you would have felt we were like rock stars.
Yep.
They wanted to come up and talk to you, and it was more than just asking for stickers, right? It was they were you feel like a rock star.
At that point,
you
it becomes relatable though, because it's just. Have you ever driven a Class 11, Rob?
No, I haven't.
Would you like to? Because I don't know how my back would feel, man.
Highly recommended. It was so much fun. Your speed is relative to your suspension travel.
Oh, okay.
It is so much fun.
That would be kind of cool.
So much fun.
If you do drive one, Rob, take me.
Yeah, let's do it.
I'll go with you. John, I don't want to talk too much about that safety stuff. Like all the safety stuff, I'm a big proponent of safety, like I said before. So if you're out there on the course, please be careful.
Without a doubt.
David said, you should have heard Jim on the radio for that Chula Vista race. And so he's talking about one of your guys?
Yeah, I think so.
Maybe it was a Chula Vista race.
Jim Baldwin, maybe? Yeah, probably talking about Jim Baldwin. Yeah, I was.
Here we go. Yeah, so you should have heard Jim Baldwin screaming over the radio. Scott said. Don Haugen said, if Texplex brings Pro 2 and Pro 4 next year to Texas, I don't know if they could do that out there, man. They'd have to do some serious track changes. Would you come? They are doing Mod Carts series this summer. I mean, that actually sounds interesting, but I think it would be quite a bit of work for them to do that.
Yeah, I haven't been to Texplex. I've heard about it. You were there, and
It's a little too motocrossy for a big truck.
Right.
I mean, for the UTVs, it's right at the edge of being too much.
But they basically made news because they were offering that big payout, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. They are actually doing a pretty good job, though. And the way that they do it, it's really structured like a motocross race. You know, I actually think Caden would like to go out there, man. He'd probably your son would probably have a really good time out there. He's such a good UTV driver, and his control of the car is so nice that he'd be able to time a lot of those jumps really well. Shoot, maybe you'd even have a good time in a UTV out there. I think that's more of a loaded question, Don. I appreciate you asking, though, because that's pretty cool that they're even thinking about it. There's not really any short course racing in the center of the country like that, is there?
Just the stuff they're doing in the Midwest. So.
Yeah. So that's actually Frank Hahn commented in. What does he say about Amber here? Rob Blanton?
Oh, he wants to go to Fiji.
Yeah.
If everyone gets married, he wants to go to Fiji too.
Frank, so he's talking about the story with Renezeders and everybody?
Yep. Frank's related to Carl.
Yeah, well, who doesn't want to go to Fiji, though, right?
We're in, Frank. Set it up.
You're already ready to go? Bags are packed?
Yeah.
Swim trunks are set up?
Look at John Lewis is trying to call me out. Blanton watched the show last week and studied all the answers.
Oh, here we go.
John, just because you're a Rob Mack fan doesn't mean that other people can be smarter than a third grader, okay?
Okay, and then Mike Gilson commented in and said, ask Rob how many cobs of corn can Rob eat at a corn roast. Oh, there must be a backstory behind this one.
My first year back there racing, and it was soda then before core, and we stayed.
When you say back there, where are you talking
in
about?
Wisconsin, and in the Midwest. And first year we traveled back there to go race, and we stayed at Johnny Greaves' shop, and we were looking for a place to test. We were struggling with the truck, and Johnny said, just go down, through the fields and turn left and turn right, and we're in the middle of corn all around us, and there was a little place where the water would run and the corn wouldn't grow. So we ended up making a little test track. And one day we're out there testing, and Mike Gilson, Mikey, we call him, or the corn boy. And the reason why he's named the corn boy is because as we're testing, we thought we were in the middle of nowhere. And he was about 14 years old, I think. And he came walking out of the corn, and we're like, where did you come from?
Children of the corn.
Yeah, he was exactly. So, Mikey ended up being part of the team, and we ended up traveling around with us to the country. And when we go back at Crandon, like this year and last year, we went back there and we had him come out and help us. So he knows a lot of these stories as well.
That's pretty cool. How would you like having the nickname the Corn Boy, though? Yeah. You still call him that when you see him?
Yeah, absolutely.
The Corn Man now?
He's
The corn man.
yeah.
Oh, that's pretty cool. Can you read this one for us, Rob, real quick? Robert Blanton.
Hey, Carl said to go to a live audience that he'd take us to Fiji.
Yeah.
There's proof.
There is proof. So it sounds like Amber's trying to get to Fiji now, too.
Yep, someone's going to Fiji.
So maybe when you get back home, your bags are going to be packed and ready to rip.
Bags are packed.
That would be pretty cool. Hey, Carl said it in the live audience, yeah. And Robert Hargis said, killed me at KOH last year seeing the star logo covered in tape. So rad the BFG stepped in. It really is cool to see. The stuff that happens behind the scenes is, we're not going to get too far into it, but is always business oriented. No matter what happens, you really see the cream rise to the top. The people that care about racing, the people that support racing, and the people that support the families, drivers, and staff, and everybody that does race. So I'm really glad that BF Goodrich stepped up to support your program, man. It's fantastic to see a company sticking by the people that they care about.
Yeah, they've been good to me since 1991. We've been together and done a lot of things together, won a lot of races together, developed a lot of tires. And, I appreciate everything they've done for me. And, the truck, in these colors and everything looks awesome. Got a lot of great compliments.
Yeah, that's super cool. John Lewis commented and said, I'm also a Robert Blanton fan as well. Have you ever run, John Huppert said, have you ever run at the ERX Motor Park up there in Minnesota?
No, I haven't. I've seen videos and stuff like that. And it looks like a pretty cool track.
It does look pretty insane. And
what's your favorite short course track?
Crandon, obviously.
Okay, Crandon doesn't exist. What's your number two?
Number two, there's the track in Wheatland.
That
is
place,
badass.
Yeah.
Did you ever get to go out there, Blanton?
I did not get a chance to go out there.
That place was pretty cool. How was it sending that big tabletop in a Pro 4?
Well, that's a good story, too.
Let up, right?
Yeah, well, that's a good one. So the first time we get back there, I'm actually doing track walk with my son. And, it's probably been 4 or 5 years ago the first time we went back. And I look at that, and I'm like, oh, my God, it's so big. And I'm like, I don't think we can clear this thing. And about that time, Brian Deegan shows up, and he says, we're going to flatland this. Deegan was right. I was wrong. So, yeah, you hit it wide open, and you'll flatland. So you had to check up off that thing.
I saw a couple Pro 4s kite it and have issues and stuff like that.
Absolutely. You had to be careful. If you did wood it off that, you had to really worry about getting air under the hood and flipping over backwards. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I think it's Randy Menier had Kyle LeDuc's old truck and hit it too hard, and it caught wind and basically just about blew over backward. There were some big crashes there. I think Rodrigo Ampudia and Mari Hart's kid, they had a big crash there too.
Yeah, didn't they get together or
I
something
think so.
Like that?
Yeah, I just remember, yeah.
When you're going through there, you're coming through that Daytona turn in, let's talk Pro 2. In what gear? Second gear going around the...
Typically, Wheatland, that corner was high banked, but it got blue blue groove and very slippery. So you're basically in high gear pedaling it, just trying to get the thing to hook up. Yeah, it would be spinning the tires all the way through that corner. So you really, really backed out of it, very low RPM. So you'd be surprised how, having over 800 horsepower in a Pro 2 on a slippery track like that, you can't get it hooked up. That's why a lot of times you see the Pro Lights guys with about half. Speed. Yeah, about half the horsepower. Their lap times were right there. It's because we couldn't hook up all that horsepower.
So when you're going through a corner and you're getting ready to do a big jump like that, there was a little kind of like a setup jump before it or whatever, but maybe 80% of the way through that corner, you're starting to think about getting the speed coming out of it. Then
you're just honestly, you're just feeling it and paying attention to the RPM, and if it's revving up, you're lifting, and it's really a hard thing to do. When you're basically giving it 10-15% throttle and the truck's spinning the tires. So, it's something else to talk about there. These trophy trucks going across the dry lake, if they're going 135, the rear tires are typically doing 150. Yeah. They're spinning.
Yeah. Because you guys are wooded at the time, right?
The trophy trucks aren't very aerodynamic. Nowadays they have big blocks in them. They have 1,000 horsepower, and they just can't go through the wind. They can't push it. So if you wood it, the rear tires are spinning a lot faster. They've had data showing, say the race is 500 miles, but the rear tires, they go 575 miles.
Yeah. Whoa, really?
So there's numbers like that.
Dude, that's crazy. I wonder what the difference would be between one of the new all-wheel drive trucks, since it has so much more available output with the wheels.
I don't know the numbers, but definitely a lot less wheel spin.
Dude, that's crazy. That's nuts to think about, right? Because like a normal guy like me just thinks about seeing it, a picture or a video of it coming out of the corner. It's like cheating, right? Like it's like so much faster. But then when you're talking about it in a real world like lake bed, I mean, you could gain, I don't know how long the lake beds are. Let's just say in 5 miles, you could gain 60 seconds probably because you're using it.
I can't speak to the trophy trucks on what the top speed is, but the short course trucks like at Crandon, a lot of times the 2-wheel drive truck actually had higher mile per hour at the end of the straightaway. There was a period of time that was happening. It was hard to understand why. They wouldn't get off the corner as fast, but at the end of the straightaway, the Pro 2s would have a higher speed.
If you did a radar clock on that? Wow, That's crazy. That's pretty interesting to see. I would wonder what the scientific stuff is behind that. So Scott Wren commented in again and said, what's Rob's secret to perfect hair?
Scott Rain, I think that question is directed towards me. All right. Scott and I have known each other for a long time. Right. Actually, the first event that Warfighter Made ever got invited to was a Super Stadium truck. Robbie Gordon and Scott was announcing that show. And then, of course, the last time we just saw Scott was at the Mint 400 2020, where he gave Team Warfighter all of our finisher coins because, we had 3 vehicles, a total of 14 vets, a total of 10 drivers. We had a great time. So,
put the mic a little closer to your mouth, too.
So Scott's definitely talking about me on that. And Scott, I'm going to tell you, when I see you in person, I'm going to tell you all about it, all right? It's a lot of hair product.
You guys are going to have to go to the Walgreens or CVS and
just
get you all
walk
dialed
around,
in.
and I'm going to have to pick all of his product out for him.
Get down to the hair salon. Bubba's over here in San Jacinto. Okay, so Mike Gilson also commented in. So he's asking that same question about the bystanders and stuff in Mexico. So, Mike, we're not going to get too far into that, but safety is always key to all these guys. Anybody that gets in the truck is always concerned about the stuff that happens internally with their chase crew and then all of the people that are watching. No matter what, that is always the top priority. So these guys would give up their race any day to make somebody's safety the top priority. Ask Rob about his Vans shoes, giving away his secrets to the Serapis brothers. Oh, that sounds like a good story.
I'm not wearing Vans anymore, but I don't even know, from high school all the way to, 30 years, I think I wore Vans, nothing but Vans. And Amber and I, one time, we scheduled a trip to I got a trip for her to go Christmas to go to New York City, and ended up saying, you know what, I think I better get some walking shoes and not wear the Vans. And I ended up, nobody will know me in New York City. Like, it'll be okay, wearing some walking shoes or running shoes. And so ever since then, and Cameron still also used to tell me, because when he did commentary IndyCar, he used to have to walk a bunch, and he was always in Vans. And he says, Rob, you need to put some.
Those flat sole shoes will kill you.
Exactly. So anyways, so ever since I started wearing running shoes, kind of been stuck to it.
Well, what's the secrets with the Serapis brothers, though?
I don't know.
Here we go. I like that.
Yeah, I think
Mike Gilson says Oshkosh had a nice tabletop back in the day. Where was Oshkosh? Was Wisconsin?
Yeah,
too?
Wisconsin. So I'm trying to remember the Oshkosh track.
Was it a tabletop you think that was as big as the one in Wheatland? Because that thing was a pretty big center.
Yeah,
man.
no. Wheatland is huge. Oshkosh, anything, yeah. The biggest jumps back there would be Bark River, has a pretty big jump. That's probably the biggest one that I know of. Cranon has a jump there that's pretty big. But
So Blanton already asked you what your favorite track was. What was the most technical short course track that you had to drive on?
At the end, Glen Helen was getting very, very rough, very difficult, chopped up. So that's the first one that comes to mind that was pretty darn technical.
Yeah, because it wasn't just throwing it in the corner as fast as you could.
The dirt there kind of went away. As when they built a track in the beginning, the track seemed very good, very raceable. As time went on, it seemed like the dirt just went away and the tracks got very narrow and they ended up getting rutted up. Glen Helen used to be one of my favorite ones, but as it progressed, it just got narrow in one line. And it didn't.
I hated how they put that little chicane before that last corner and stuff.
Just made it
right at the very end there.
Yeah. Let's see. So I wanted to talk about a couple stories that I was thinking about asking. Do you have a most memorable? Well, it's two questions, I guess. A most memorable Baja 500 and a most memorable Baja 1000. And I don't mean the memories like, fuck yeah, we won by 30 minutes. I mean like you came home and you were either like just totally defeated or you were like, that was the best freaking trip we ever had.
Yeah, I mean, just first thing came to mind, Baja 500 was 1996 racing. Larry Ragland earlier talked about the Mount Rushmore, and Larry Ragland was definitely one of those guys for me, Jack Johnson, Rod Millen, but just really had a battle at the beginning with Ivan Stewart. The first half, the race course went down La Rumorosa, and I remember, I was driving the single-seat trophy truck that some people remember that Nia Frank and Dave Clark built, and as you're going down La Rumorosa, the big trucks, we couldn't make the tight corners, in one turn, so I'd have to pull forward and back up, and I was first on the road at the time, and Ivan Stewart ended up, he had a little Toyota and the thing could turn really sharp. And I knew he was right there. And I said, well, I got to make this 3-point corner, but I got to block him so he can't just go by. So I did it real tight and he ended up driving right into my door. And he knew I had to back up. As soon as I backed up far enough to go, he could go. So I'm like, I stopped and I looked at him and, he's pointed right at my passenger door. I looked at him and I'm like, back up, and he looked at me and he goes, no, you back up. And I go, nope, you back up. And he goes, wom, wom, revs it up. And I went,
This sounds like a parking lot at Walmart, dude. Like the old lady that just doesn't want to give up her parking spot at Walmart, man.
So he threw the thing in reverse, started backing up and hurry up and threw it in gear to go forward. And he got me. Well, we got down to the bottom and there was a little cut over the top of the hill and I got him. But then I pulled in my pit. And he went by, and then he pulled into his pit. Now we were down there by Laguna Salada, and we had a 60-mile, maybe 60, 40-mile graded road. Back in the old days, we didn't run on Laguna Salada. We ran on the main road, which is now a chase road back in there. And going down that road, I knew he just had a 6-cylinder, and I had a big V8, and I knew I'd catch him. So I was just pinned in the dust. I couldn't see anything, and I know the dust getting heavier, and all of a sudden I got this big whiff of oil, and he blew his motor up trying to run from me. But that same race, Larry Ragland and I raced all the way into the finish, and he and I have great stories about that race. And he said he kept pushing harder, and I knew. Like he's coming, and so I kept pushing harder, and we ended up winning that race by 6 minutes. But that's my Baja 500 story.
Dang, that's crazy. What about a Baja 1000? Because those are like quite a bit longer.
There's good ones and bad ones. Good one was with Carl and Mark Post in 2000, winning the longest Baja 1000 peninsula run there was.
Driving at that time?
The Riviera truck, the number 3. Yeah. That was winning the first Baja 1000 for myself overall. Just the feeling that feeling, like I've never felt that again. Only the Baja 1000. Bad memories Baja 1000 was having the overall championship in hand in a racing a 1600 car, 1600 car, and having the motor blow up and a rod went through the block. And I was actually racing with Gus Vildosel at the time, and I was sharing my 1600 car with Brian Freeman and Bruce Fraley. Mm-hmm. And after we were supposed to finish in the trophy truck, I was going to get out and go back and get back in the 1600 car and then finish with that. But the trophy truck had a really bad day and Gus Vildoso ended up pulling out of the race, and the 1600 car got in front of me, and I'm like, oh no, I need to somehow get in front of it so I get back in the car because I was driver record. And all we had to do was finish 35th to win the overall championship, but there wasn't even 35 cars. So the motor, the 1600 car got in front. We ended up getting the trophy truck down to Valley to Trinidad, and the 1600 car was headed across the crossover road over to San Vicente. And when I got to Valley to Trinidad, they told me, hey, the transmission broke in the 1600 car. And I'm like, oh, no. And I was like, Gus, I have a spare transmission here for the buggy. Can I load it on the trophy truck and take it over there? Well, when I got there, they're like, it's not the transmission, it's the motor. Actually, a rod went through the block. So all we had to do was finish, and I had some great help from Vegas and some guys there. And we ended up deciding we're going to take the motor apart and clean it up and try to assemble it, put it back together. So we did basically on the tailgate there at San Vicente at the BF Goodrich pit. We opened the whole motor up, cleaned all the parts out of it. When the rod went around, it broke the cam, and we ended up rebuilding the thing as a 2-cylinder.
Whoa.
And then the buggy went from San Vicente out to the Pacific, all the way up the Pacific side, and it was coming into Santa Tomas, and Brian Freeman was in the car at the time, and I was following him with the trophy truck. And as he's going down the twisty hill into Santa Tomas, I'm behind him, and all of a sudden I realize, oh my gosh, he's going too fast because the RPM and being a 2-cylinder, it's going to come apart again. And before I could get on the radio to stop him, it did it again. So we coasted it down to the bottom of the hill there, and then I ended up, the sun was up, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how much time we got? We had 4 hours to get to the finish line, and I ended up calling Fat Performance, who built the motor, and I was 6 a.m., called Ron at his house, and hey, this is what's happening, and what do we do, and can we, what can we change on the motor? You need to look at the rule book and tell me, what can we do? Because I had a spare motor from the Ampudias. We had their spare 1600 motor in my chase truck, and I'm like, I can't just put the thing in because that's against the rules, but what do I have to keep? And he didn't have the answer. And ultimately, Brian Freeman had called his dad, and his dad knew the rule book by the back of his hands. He said, you can change everything but the block. So it's like, okay, we're taking that complete motor apart. We're going to use everything in it but the block and rebuild this motor that had the rod went through the block in 2 different places. So we patched that thing all back together and, got it going again, and we couldn't get the timing set right, and it wouldn't run, and we ended up getting to the finish line, and we were 45 minutes late.
Dude.
So anyways, that year, it was that was the year when Volkswagen was involved, and they were paying bonus money, and CarTech was paying bonus money, and I think the overall championship that year would have been about $35,000, and we ended up missing it by 45 minutes, and I still, to this day, I have the engine block with the aluminum that was screwed to the top of the block to fill that hole, and then the other hole was JB welded and siliconed, and I have the piston with one of the pistons with the bent rod, and it's labeled on it 2005 Baja 1000, and then inside that's the finisher pin, which we actually weren't official. The pin is in there, so that was a great story, but also a bad one.
Well, yeah, what a pisser, but that's a constant reminder of gosh, dang it, man.
That's why we love Baja, and that's why this desert racing, all things that can happen. And, if you got that group of people together and commiserated about all the things that happened that day and that night and everything else, it's actually
45 minutes. Holy cow. Yeah. Man, if you could only figure out how to spare 45 minutes, right?
Well, you always look back and go, we should have rebuilt it the first time with the new block or with the new parts, not the new block.
John Huppers asked, do you like the Baja 1000 loop or peninsula runs?
Peninsula runs are the coolest, but they're also the most, hardest to the logistics, figuring out your hotel rooms and, the traveling, the pit plan, the amount of people that we need. They're a lot more expensive, but peninsula runs are definitely cool.
We had Art Franco commented in and said, ask him to tell you the story about the Federales stopping the race when he used to drive with Mark Post.
Yeah, so there's kind of 2 stories there. With that question brings 2 stories. So
what vehicle first? Yeah,
so with Mark Post, one's with Vildosola, the Federale stopping the race, and then the Riviera truck was with Mark Post, and that's basically when the famous video and the DVD that Jimmy Cook put together called Above the Law with Riviera Racing. But I started that race, and it was a loop race. Started in Ensenada, came up the Pacific side, and finished in Ensenada. And back in the day, we used to, about mile 10 or so, we used to get on the highway there, leave Ensenada, and then make a 180 on the highway. And I remember coming up there, and I threw the truck sideways and basically backed it on the asphalt and went down the highway. Gave the truck to Mark Post on the Pacific side over at San Vicente. And when he got in the truck, he was going down the highway, and I had jumped in the helicopter, and I was up above him following, and all of a sudden I see these cop cars like starting to chase him, and I'm like, oh my God, like, what are they doing? And it's like, they're going after Mark. It's like, at first I thought they're just going to pass him. No, they pull up behind him, next to him, and they're trying to wave him over. And
whoa!
And I'm like, what's going on? And come to find out, they were trying to pull him over, which we really don't know the reason. The only thing that I could think of is what I did at the beginning, which that's what we all did. And I must have pissed them off, and they were coming after us later. So Mark figured out, and Kelly Curry, who was the co-writing, they figured out if they stop, and they knew we were in contention to win the race, they figured out if we stop and try to figure out what they want, like what do we do wrong, we're taking us out of this win. So they decided we're going to keep going, and we'll talk about this at the finish line. And so they did that, and the video shows, if you guys haven't seen it, the cops are basically trying to barricade him, and they try to block the road where the race course got off the highway and got in the dirt. They tried to block the road. Mark just weaved around him and on his way and went on his way and kept going. Well, at that time, Jimmy Cook was in the helicopter with me, and he was filming everything. And so they race all the way up the beach, and I realize I'm doing split times in the helicopter. I'm like, this is really close, but I think we got this. And as they come down the twisty hill into Santa Tomas, the finish line was there. When they got to the bottom, they're 300 yards from the finish line, and all of a sudden you see federales walking out from the trees, and they got their machine guns and everything pointed at them, and Mark stops, and I'm like, holy cow. And Jimmy, make sure you're film all this. So, and I'm thinking at the time, we're winning and they're taking it away from us right now if you stop. So film this so we have record of how much time it was. And about that time, we heard on the radio, Kelly, they're getting out, and they're taking, we can see it. They're handcuffing. They're on the hood. They got the machine guns aimed in the truck, and they drag Mark out. They handcuff him. They take him away. And then, Kelly's like, oh my gosh, you guys, where's the chase cars? And there was a ton of traffic in Santa Tomas coming from both ends, and our chase trucks couldn't get there. So we ended up in the helicopter. Kelly's like, hey, you guys see this? What's happening? They're taking Mark. And it's like, Kelly, get in the truck and take it to the finish line, please. Got to stop that clock. So he did that, and we stayed in the air hovering, and they took Mark Post, put him in one cop car, started heading north. They pulled over on the side. They got him out. They put him in another cop car, started heading south, and it's like, man, keep an eye on Mark, because what are they going to do with him? Going to take him away. And about that time, they went south of Santa Tomas, and they pulled over on the one cop car, pulled over on the side of the highway, and I'm like, hey, you guys, land the helicopter real quick. Let me get out, run over to the finish line, talk to Sal, and tell him what's going on. So I did, and Sal's like, what happened? What'd you do? And I'm like, I don't know. He goes, well, something must have happened. I go, I don't know what happened. So Sal sent Oscar Ramos, who's passed away, with me to get in a chase truck to go find Mark. And when we got down there, they had Mark in the cop car, and Oscar tried talking to him to get him released, and the federale had nothing to do with it. So they ended up taking Mark all the way back to San Quintin. They loaded the trophy truck up on a flatbed, took it all the way down there, and ultimately, we got Mark out of jail. We went back to the finish line. Now it's like 11 o'clock midnight, and Sal's tearing down the finish line with the light towers and everything. And, Mark had a bottle of Don Julio, and he's like, Sal, and Mark's already been drinking a little bit. And then ended up, Sal goes, hey, I don't have enough trucks to take the light towers back to Ensenada. Can we hook one of these up to the Riviera chase truck? So Mark and Sal got a chase truck and went back to town, and we put the light tower away. And Mark kept telling me, we dropped Sal off at the hotel, I think it's San Nicolas. Mark kept telling Sal, he was like, in the morning, we're coming back here, and we want to protest because we believe we won this race. So Sal says, if you want, come in here. And so the footage of all this was on the helicopter, and we tried to get Jimmy Cook to get it off there so we could take it into Sal to show it to him. Well, he couldn't get it out of the helicopter, so they flew the helicopter from the Ensenada Airport all the way up to near the San Nicolas Hotel. They could land kind of where the start line is. They could land it there, and Sal told his nephew, Paul Fish, go out there in the helicopter and watch the video and time how long they were stopped and give me that, and I'm going to stay here and talk with Mark. And Sal made some phone calls to the local police and stuff like that to try to find out what was going on. And ultimately, Sal never got a reason why what was happening. So when Paul came back with the footage, or told him what he saw, and then came back with the time, and you look at the time that Alan Pfluger ended up winning and we ended up getting second, the time that they held us, would have made us still be the winner. Yeah. So all of a sudden, Mark comes. Paul Fish goes up the elevator. About 15 minutes later, Mark comes out and he's got his hand in the air, high-fiving us, going, "We won." And about the same time, we look, and Alan Pfluger's walking in the sliding doors into the San Nicolas Hotel to look at the winning results. And another guy came down and crossed out Alan Pfluger and put Mark. And Pfluger just went up there and he looked at it, and he looked at us, and he walked out the door. And so we really don't know the details on all that about what happened, why they tried to come after us and stop him.
Dude.
But Jimmy Cook made that movie, and one day, he called me. He's like, "Hey, video's coming close together, and I got to figure out, what to call it. Give us some ideas and come up with something." Rob and I hung up the phone, and sometime later, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, the name of the movie needs to be Above the Law." Right?
I'm looking that up.
I called Jimmy, and I'm like, "Jimmy, it's got to be above the law." And he goes, "No way. We can't do that." Like, no way. And I'm like, "No, I think you got to. Like, this has got to be it." So anyways.
Dude, that's a crazy story. Was Mark shitting his pants?
Maybe. I know Kelly was, because during that, after they dodged the cop cars and they were in the dirt, for some miles, Kelly told me to say, 5-10 miles later, all of a sudden, Kelly's like to Mark, "Yes, Kelly, I have kids."
Oh, crap.
So, Kelly was thinking about it.
So he was definitely thinking about it. Troy Conitzer commented in and said, has Rob Mack been to the slip and slide in the Jurassic Park at Crandon? Is that like Lot B, or what is that?
Yeah, it's out in the camping area. And yes, a long time ago I have, but yeah, not recently. Good times in Crandon. That's why these guys, I was talking to these two guys earlier, and we were eating a couple hours ago. Anyways, long story short, both of you guys need to go back to Crandon. And,
we really want to.
And check it out. But the slip and slide is one of the things back.
All right. Does that mean you're going to go back to the slip and slide, Blanton?
I guess so.
You're going to have to get back there and check it out. Yeah, David, it is all about the stories, man. It's really cool to see how much love and passion is in off-road racing. So Scott Rain commented in, and I pronounced his name, I think, correctly now. My last question, guys. What does Rob attribute to the reason why short course for years has been on the edge of getting huge attention, mainstream media-wise, but continuously falls short?
Sometimes, I don't know. I can talk different ways and look at it different ways. But one thing I kind of come to realization about is I feel that the sport has been too much of a hobby. Honestly, it's been close and just never got over the end. And when I look back at it, I think to myself, maybe, we off-road community is always a big happy family. And, we want everybody to race and everybody to be there, and we want all the different classes. And that's what I want. I want everybody there. But maybe that's been part of our demise, where we should have only been one class. It's the elite, and that's it. And, I don't know. Maybe that's the reason. We back to, off-roading, no matter what it is, desert, short course. Mickey Thompson, and that's, a little bit to what I'm saying is Mickey Thompson was a business, and all the teams, Cal Wells, Walker Evans, Ivan Stewart, or Cal Wells, Roger Mears, Jim Venable, all those guys, they ran it as a business. It was full-time shops, and they ran it as a business. And that's the most successful that short course or any off-road has ever been. And I think, there was no hobbyists racing in the Grand National Sport Truck. It wasn't there for fun. You were there to run a business, to get sponsors, and basically work at it 24/7. And I think the other short course stuff, there's been the top tier guys like myself, or that we're working hard, and it's my 24/7 365 to try to be successful. But half the field, it's just their weekend getaway. It's their relax and their time to blow off steam and get some adrenaline. And I think that's just always been the thing. We're trying to include everybody in. And I hate to say it, because what I love about off-road is that we are a family. We all get to camp together and talk together, but maybe that's what's happened, and that's what it needs. It needs an elite class, just like trophy trucks. Back in the day when trophy trucks started, the reason why it's called trophy truck? Because we race for a trophy. The owners, and those were the Mickey Thompson guys, they realized in order to make this big and try to make it sustainable with sponsors, we need to showcase one, and we need to have the trophy trucks race by themselves so they can get all the attention and they get all the filming and try to put the best show out there together. And we did that for quite some time. And now, you get And I get it. You get everyone else wants to be on TV, and and that's ultimately what we've been doing. We've been letting everyone get on TV, and maybe that's the reason why it hasn't gone all the way to the top.
I think one of the most important things that you just mentioned there is, you said the teams are running it like a business, but you also have to think about let's compare it to the technology industry. Apple has a certain amount of products, right? Apple has the best-selling product, which is the iPhone. That's their trophy truck, right? That's their big dog. All of the other products just get discontinued.
Yeah.
We don't care about these ones because they don't sell. They don't produce. And so when you think about it from a racing standpoint, it's very, very similar to what you just said. The things that produce should be the focus points. Everything else could be either a feeder or a regional or some sort of other series. You don't have to stop it. You just have to segment it differently.
We never made the big show be the Super Bowl.
Right. Exactly.
We think we did. Crannon's the Super Bowl. No. And I'll talk this way and this way. I love off-road because of the family and the camaraderie. Mm-hmm. But when you want to talk about why hasn't it ever make it to the very top? That's probably why.
Yeah,
it's too much of a hobby.
And you know what's funny is a lot of people say the same thing about motocross. Motocross is way bigger than off-road, right?
Yeah.
And then supercross and stuff like that. But they still say the same thing. They say, why isn't it bigger? It's so much cooler than, let's just say, football for these off-road or these motocross guys. But they can't because they don't segment it properly. There's no Super Bowl. There's only 450s and 250s, and the way that they produce it is flawed, so to speak, and it can't grow any further. So it's just like you get to a certain level and you stop learning and you stop growing.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's get on something else. There's somebody that you might know, Caden. Says, hi, Dad.
Hi, son.
That's pretty cool that Caden commented in. Hey, well, I want to throw a shout-out to Caden, too, because he's been kicking some serious ass in the Razors these days, man.
Yeah, he has. He's only been racing for 3 years, and he's already won, I think, at least 3 championships, and he's getting close again. He moved up to the pro classes and in the work series, and then he had his first run in with Jagged X and San Felipe in the score race, and they ended up winning.
Yeah, exactly.
Nice.
Jamie Campbell, who you may know, said, did you race Willow Springs Score Off-Road World Championship?
Yeah, I did. That's back in the late 80s or early 90s, and I raced for Walker Evans there. Willow Springs was awesome. It was a good time. I don't remember what happened to me, but yeah, that actually was it's another story there. Rod Millen, Venable Racing, Ford Rough Riders. So I think that was 1990, 89, 90, probably 90. And I had just gotten a phone call from Frank D'Angelo, who was with BF Goodrich, and asked if I was interested. They told me Robbie Gordon's moving out of the Venable ride, and he's going, I think it was IMSA racing then, and he's moving out, so that seat's open, and we've narrowed it down to 2 people that we'd like to give the ride to, and we want to give you guys both test drives. And can you go do it right after Willow Springs? And I said, yeah. Who's the other guy? And they go, Rod Millen. And I thought to myself, I'm done. Like, he's got the ride. And I got the ride probably because Rod was too busy or had to do something else. But
yeah, but nonetheless, you got it.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Dang, that's pretty sweet. And yeah, Jamie, I hope you're drinking a Cactus Cooler and Tito's, buddy, or maybe even some tequila with that Cactus Cooler. John Lewis says, here's part of the Mark Post video. Oh, so they have the video. Thanks for commenting on that. I'm going to actually go check that out afterwards. That looks actually, dude, it looks intense, man. Or sounded intense.
No, it was.
I don't know. Have you driven a SST?
Yeah.
Okay. The question is, do you enjoy short course or SST more?
So SST, they're different, honestly, a lot different. The SST trucks were, ultimately Robbie started out, we were racing in stadiums, and that was try to go after what Mickey Thompson did. But very quickly, he got the opportunity to go to Long Beach Grand Prix and run the trucks there at an IndyCar race. And Long Beach, before that race, he took all the off-road guys. So we ran at Phoenix at the football stadium there, and then the very next race, we were running at Long Beach, and everybody was off-road guys, and we needed some street asphalt time to see how these trucks would work, and this leading to a funny story. So Robbie got us all to go down to Long Beach to where the shipyards are there, and there's big empty asphalt yard, and we were all they put cones up, and we're getting to run around on asphalt, get the feel, because if you guys have seen those, typically when they're asphalt, they're lifting one tire off the ground.
They're out a lot of traction.
those trucks are absolutely not what you'd want to build to race on asphalt. But because of that, they're so exciting.
Yeah.
They're hard to drive. They had not enough
Flopping
braking.
all over the place.
Not enough brakes, not enough sway bar, too tall tires, just on and on and on. But that's what made them so exciting. So as we're out there running around, Justin Lofton, PJ Jones, myself, Robbie, and many others, Ari Leindyke Jr., we're all out there taking our turns. And Robbie ends up going, hey, it's okay, it's my turn. And says, Justin, give me your truck, I'm getting in it. And Justin's like, no, not my truck. And Robbie gets out there, and I don't even know, he's going 60, 70, 80 miles an hour. And I guess he'd been doing this already in his own truck. He ended up grabbing the e-brake or whatever to spin the thing around. He's going like 80 miles an hour across the asphalt, and he was trying to spin the thing out and do a 360. Well, when he did, it caught, and it flipped on the asphalt, just and it's like, oh my gosh, like he's dead. We all took off running over there. Before we got there, he was out of the truck. It landed on its wheels, walked around the whole thing, and got in it, and he was gone before we even got there.
Whoa!
But the reason why, he was on Toyos normally, and Justin was on Yokohamas, and the Yokohamas, when they got hot, they got a lot softer, and Robbie wasn't ready for that grip, and he just destroyed that truck. And Justin, like, that's my truck.
He's all mad.
So, yeah,
Dude,
SST was a lot of fun.
were those cars were they built like the Mickey Thompson truck?
Sort of. I mean, Robbie took that model. They were small like that. The chassis were very small, and Robbie made a modular, so there was like the center part, and then the rear unbolted, the front unbolted, and they were all identical. And it was really a good model ultimately, and we had a lot of fun doing it. And ultimately, we did a lot of the street stuff. But the IndyCar fans, when we went to Long Beach, that was getting ready to say that. When we went there, we practiced, and then we got done with practice, and the fans were like, "Oh my gosh, I've never seen anything like that!" That when the trucks hit those aluminum ramps, the noise that it makes you like, what was that? So everyone would turn, and then the trucks were up as high as the top of the chain link fence, and the fans were just blown away. So. Yeah, definitely a lot of fun driving those things.
So Robbie appreciates Warfighter Made and the vets and all that stuff, and invited us out to the Sandsport Super Show where he was doing an SST race.
Yeah.
And I brought out combat wounded double leg amputee Davey Lynn. Davey Lynn's a hoss, even without his legs, and he was supposed to take Davey for a ride in his truck. And Davey comes walking up there, and he looks through the window talking about small chassis, and he's like, I'm not fitting in this, right? So Robbie looks at me, and he's just like, all right, you're up, right? So I'm like, oh, I'm not a good code dog at all. So I get in there, and, Robbie's just like, hey, just hold on to your harness, don't touch this and whatever. Starts going around the track. It hasn't been tested yet, right? The very first aluminum ramp, he puts it on the bike and just starts driving around the course. Yeah. Right. Then he starts hitting the aluminum ramps at full speed, and even from the truck, it is loud as can be. Right. Well, then he had like a joker lane where it was like two really big jumps or just a whole bunch of moguls going down. So we hit the moguls, and we're bouncing off the top of them, come back around, and he goes to hit the first big jump, and we flat land that thing so freaking hard. And, I got back issues like everybody else. And all of a sudden he comes over the radio, and he's like, hey, Jim Bob, go ahead and take about 2 feet off of that. Thing. I was like, man, I wish you would have took 2 feet off of that before we hit it.
Before he took 2 inches off your back.
Oh, my God. I used to be 6'5". Now I'm only 6'3". So.
But those trucks are pretty rad then, huh?
No, they were. They're a lot of fun. And Robbie, obviously he's an incredible talent, and him putting those races on. The finale was in Las Vegas, and it was at Planet Hollywood, Caesar's Palace parking lot area, and part of the course went around a roundabout around the Planet Hollywood sign. As it went around that, it was the driveway went down through Planet Hollywood, but if you went to the right, then you go into the parking lot of valet for Caesar's Palace. So Robbie needed to figure out how to get the race course to come down around the roundabout and then back up into the valet parking lot. So he ended up taking those aluminum ramps, and he had one, but he needed two. So he took K-rail and then put the second one on top of the K-rail, tied them together, ended up come alonging and doing all that to make them jump over a planter and a block wall that had plants on it, and then land in the valet parking lot. When you landed, you were landing on the parking barriers, and then make a 180, and then a 90, then jump through a planter, but underneath the Caesar's Palace sign. And as we got there, everything happened in one day. So you'd show up, practice, say 2 o'clock, and then racing started at 7 p.m. So we show up, we're doing track walk, track still being built. They couldn't start building the track till 12 a.m. Friday morning, and then the race is Friday night. So they had to do all that stuff, and they're still building the track, hurrying. And it's like, okay, practice was supposed to already happen. And about that time, we're looking at this ramp to try to jump the wall, and PJ Jones goes, Robbie, the ramp is not as high as the block wall. We're not going to clear the wall. And Robbie's like, it'll make it, don't worry. So Robbie's always notorious to say, hey, Sheldon Creed, get in your truck and see if it'll make it. Or, hey, Justin Lofton, get in your truck. And everybody else would look the other way. Well, this time, I forgot who it was. I think Justin ended up doing it. And it's like, me and PJ would stand back and watch. And we're like, Robbie, the damn tires are hitting the plants as he goes over the top. It's that close. Like, you better do something. So about that time, actually, this happened right before that. We're sitting there looking at the ramp, and there was a suit and tie guy coming from Planet Hollywood walking up the thing, and he's, walking along quickly, and he's like, where's Robbie Gordon? And it's like, he's over there, and Robbie, you haven't done one thing you said you were going to do. Pack this shit up and get it out of here, right? And Robbie goes and talks to the guy, turns around, looks at all of us, he goes, practice in 10 minutes. Whoa. But that's Robbie. He pulled so much stuff off, and,
Dude, when you guys were doing track walk, were you like, what the?
Oh, yeah. With Robbie, he's always trying to entertain. He kind of had the Mickey Thompson mentality, and he wanted to entertain, and he knew, that he needed to make the fans, go crazy. And that's why, he'd do the crossover jumps and stuff that you would think, well, you could never do this, Robbie. It's like, Robbie, we can't do this. No, we can do it. We got it. So
Peter Calhoun commented and said those new BFG graphics look bad. And then, well, we can say it here. Ass.
Thanks, Pete.
John Lewis said, Crusher-bound Cadillac, one for the road, starts at 30 seconds. Oh, it must be the video, I guess.
Yeah, somebody said that the link wasn't working, so he wanted to know the name.
Could you give some pointers to us racers just starting out on how to get sponsors? That's a loaded question right there, man. Hey, so before you actually give a pointer, let's just give them one tip. But if you do want to see, Tim, if you do want to see some ways that you can actually learn how to get sponsors, we did an episode with a gentleman named Alex Streiler on motorsports marketing and sponsorship. I'm not sure which episode it was, but check out the archives for Alex Streiler's episode, and he gives some fantastic information in there. So go to thedirtlifeshow.com and look for the Alex Streiler episode because it's fantastic.
He's written a book too, so I don't know the name of it, but
motorsports marketing and
there you go. Yeah, so his book is a good start, and then yeah.
So Alex is an awesome guy, and in fact, Alex who helped me get Carl to come on the show today. So
awesome.
Alex actually does a whole class. AlexStreiler.com. We'll plug him, and he does every Tuesday. He does introductions to people who tell you how to get sponsors from their first person perspective. In fact, I think he had some BFG guys on maybe last week or the week before too. So go check it out, man. What would be your one tip?
Just, be a straight, honest person, and, always shake hands, say hi, be good, give back, and then work hard at it and show your passion. For me, a lot of my stuff has happened through my life, especially in the beginning, is the handshakes and being truthful and honest and working hard.
Yeah, 100%. Let's see. It looks like they're talking about the video and stuff like that. It was Evel Knievel all over. It sounds like what Robbie was trying to do over there in Vegas.
Yep.
Huh? How was it like racing near home, though? Because you probably didn't have to show up after you eat breakfast 20 minutes down the street, huh?
That's the thing. SST was pretty cool because, he sold sponsorship. You could bring your own sponsorship to a truck and buy a truck and get to drive it. But, they brought the trucks. They prepped the trucks. You didn't have to bring your own guy or anything. And you'd bring the money and go drive them. And ultimately, when you're done, if the truck's all torn up, there was times like I felt guilty, like putting my helmet in my bag and just walking away, but
you're like, didn't I need to fix something? Or
Well, in the end, sometimes I say, my analogy is, it's like going to the go-kart track with your buddies. You go in, you pay, you drive.
You're not
and when
supposed
you're
to
done,
touch each other.
No. And when you're done, you're laughing, giggling, high-fiving out the door, going, how cool was that? So credit to Robbie for, having those dreams and stuff. He's an incredible person, and, I swear there's at least two of him, as much stuff as he does and tries to accomplish.
It really is crazy, right?
Yep.
Well, thank you very much for all you guys submitting all these questions and stuff. I have 2 questions left. I knew that I should keep my list short because we were going to have so many people talking. Before I ask those, do you have any, Rob?
No. Well, okay, yeah. So, no, yeah. So people have always asked me from being in combat, like, oh, were you scared when you were doing this? And the answer is always like, no. You're so focused on what's going down at that specific moment, but I've been scared to death, like way before it or way after it's all done, and then you start thinking about all the things that could have happened.
Yeah.
Have you ever had like that moment, whether in open desert or short course, where you were just like, holy fuck?
Yeah, I think it's at a totally different level.
Yeah.
But I understand what you're saying. And yeah, a lot of times when you're leading up to a race, there's times when, especially you're not prepared that well, you don't feel good about it, but very nervous and things like that. And, other times stuff happens so quick too.
Yeah.
And I think for me, when, the crash happens or something, things go into slow motion and you really take everything in. It's amazing. The last big crash I had that I remember was with Rodrigo Ampudia at Glen Helen. We tied up and went up in the air. But, I remember that and like how slow everything happened, even from going up the ramp. And it's like thinking, this could happen.
Yeah.
And it did.
Yeah, 15
and then
seconds feels like 30 minutes.
Exactly. Yeah. It seems like forever. Exactly. So when things go wrong, it does seem like it happens in a long time.
Yeah. What about like the how about there's 2 questions that he's asking. Do you get nervous before?
Most of the time not. I guess ultimately when I do is when I'm not prepared properly,
right.
Or things aren't quite going right.
Oh, like nervous that you just fixed something and you got to go out and like.
Not so much that I go, everything leading up to the race. There's just a bunch of stuff, and if I have basically any racer just the whole mental list or paper list of whatever, everything needs to get done.
Yep.
And if everything gets done, then everything's going well, and then it's like nothing.
Shout out to Lucero.
Yeah, exactly. So
what about afterwards?
No, not. I mean, sometimes there's some incidents that happen, where you're like, you almost hit something, and
right.
you have no time to think about it, and you're like, after the fact, you think like, wow, if that would have happened.
Yeah.
That's what Yeah. So unless it's like a big shaker, we were actually talking about this with the kids last week, Caden Danbury and Jacob Peter. One of the best traits, and I think probably you guys have experienced this too, Rob, in combat and stuff. One of the best traits about any racer is that they can forget quickly. So you go into corner A, corner B, corner 1, 2, and you make a mistake. By the next corner, number 3, you're back on track and you're going straight forward to the front or whatever it is. So
you forget you made the mistake and you do it again.
Yeah, that's actually a good point.
Not.
But that's a good trait to have. And I think, does it happen in combat as well or no?
In all honesty, you try to train yourself to such a level that a lot of the things that you're doing don't require conscious thought. Everything is just subconscious. You're just subconsciously going through the motions, pulling the trigger, speed reloads, getting your weapon back in the fight, whatever the case may be. Or as we always like to say, shoot, move, and communicate. You do that to such a level that a lot of times you can't, like, people walk up and be like, bro, what the fuck happened, during X, Y, and Z? And you'd be like, I don't really remember because I didn't have to think about it. My body was just
doing
it. And I was really focused on one specific thing, like that bad guy or making sure that my guys were, doing what they were supposed to be doing type thing. So I always refer to it as a picture book. You're flipping through pictures, and each one of those pictures you remember specifically because you're looking at that picture. But then you need somebody else to walk over with their picture book to kind of fill in those blanks to put together a whole, kind of a whole scene of what happened.
That makes sense. And that's probably what Rob was talking to or leaning on a little bit, was that you don't necessarily remember because you're just there doing it.
Right.
Man, that's crazy. It's pretty cool that racers can actually do that, though, because that really shows you the different level of intensity mentally that the professional racers have against the amateur racers. Tim Curran said thank you for the input on the sponsorship stuff. John Lewis said, yeah, the Empudio thing was pretty gnarly. We actually talked about it on the way up here, Blanton and I. It was a pretty gnarly crash. Stuff like that happens, though. You know what I mean? And you just have to, unfortunately, you have to deal with it at the time. But those 15 seconds do seem like forever, don't they? Don Haugen said, dude, you were pissed. I remember that. You took the short end of the stick on that one. Yeah, I don't think Rob wants to talk about that right now. So we're going to move on. Rob raced at Crandon after a bad wreck in Glen Helen with his collarbone still broke. You broke your collarbone then?
It was a different one. It was a different. Yeah, it was a different one.
She had to make a custom pad to put inside your suit that you borrowed Carl's Mud MU.
They call them. Yeah, that's like the tear-offs, mud mutcher, they call them. Yeah, so I had to borrow Carl's mud mutcher so I could just push a button to have the tear-offs, and I had to go race.
Oh,
that was
because
the year
you couldn't really move your arm.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember if that was the year I was racing. I was definitely racing both Lucas Oil and Torque back east, and I had a race, and my collarbone was broke, so we had
when you have a broken collarbone, you probably have to hold it low and then just barely use your other hand.
Yeah, I think I was driving one-handed mostly.
Yeah, that's crazy, man. I could only imagine. Do you remember what your results were that weekend? Not as good as you wanted.
I think we did okay. I think we were obviously in a points chase and probably did better than expected with one arm.
There's no expectations when you're driving with one arm in a badass truck like that, man. So congratulations on doing all that. And actually, that's awesome that Amber was able to hook you up with all that too. Yeah, thank you for your service, Rob.
Oh, Mike, it was a pleasure to serve, man.
And David P. said, yeah, that was gnarly when he went with you to the hot pits. Need sponsor for Adelanto Grand Prix. Hey, man, go get them, Steve. Check out that episode that we did, Motorsports Marketing and Sponsorship with Alex Streiler. You can find some really good tips over there. All right, so the questions that I was going to ask is the last two questions. When you get free time, what do you like to do? Where do you like to go?
Well, we like to ride our Polaris Razors. I like to chill, just do nothing sometimes.
I bet.
Doing nothing's pretty nice. Started to go to the lake river last summer a little bit, and we just did it yesterday for Mother's Day, and maybe start doing that again more. And maybe
is that why you're glowing today?
Yeah, that's makeup.
You got refreshed. Okay, and then the last just kind of question that I had was, who are some of the people that have influenced you the most over the years, whether they're living or past?
Yeah,
I know that you've mentioned a couple to us, like different people that are in the off-road industry out here in San Jacinto, but overall, who do you think has influenced you the most?
Oh, starting out, my mom and dad, you was talking earlier to Rob about it, but, certain quotes that they've said that have stuck in my head that I really didn't realize, in the beginning, but how I've actually applied them and now, trying to teach them to the kids and stuff like that. So my parents, honestly, in the beginning, hooking up with Nye Frank and Dave Clark and just all the knowledge, it's really in 97, I had to start my own team and try to figure all this out on my own. The first time I had to run my own team, and did a lot of traveling with those guys and just a lot of stories, especially with Nye, just his thoughts. And you could be sitting in a group of people and everybody be saying, this is what that is. And Nye would come in and explain to you why that's not what it is. It's this. And then the whole group would understand, and he would explain it to us so that we would all understand. And so he was an amazing guy. Just as time gone, there's been a lot of people, and ultimately, I'm just picking up stuff from everybody. I realize, a lot of stuff you listen and learn and then apply it, and you don't even really know where it came from.
Right.
So, honestly, my parents, biggest, most, Nye, buddies, friends, just all the acquaintances over time. You pick up stuff from everyone.
Well, one of the main reasons that I asked that question is because on the adverse side of it, you have been very, very influential in many, many racers' careers. And I'm not just talking about the guys that are up now. I mean, throughout the years, even guys that you've raced against at the same competitive level, same ranks, everything, just like Carl Renezeder that we talked to today. You were influential in his whole career. I mean, I talked about this yesterday on a side-by-side ride with some of the motocross guys. What if Jeff Emig never had a Jeremy McGrath to compete against? He would have been the top dog for so many years, right? And that influence that you bring to the track every time you show up helps elevate everybody. It's pretty dang cool, man. So whether you realize it or not, you're definitely changing and making things cool.
Now, as I get older and as I, just kind of look at stuff more and I see these little kids moving up, and I realize these little kids have been watching and paying attention, and they do admire, and try to model what I've done, and they're trying to do the same thing. Their parents have said, hey, that's what you need to do. That's what you need to be. That's how you need to act. So I know later in life, I'll even appreciate it even more.
Yep.
But,
especially with your son too.
Yeah. I'm starting to realize it, that these kids, they're paying attention, and, whether it's Clint Berry's son, or Connor Berry, these kids, and they're like, I realize, they look at me and, I'll, high five them and stuff. And some of them will say like, I'm trying to be like you, so that's quite an honor. And, later in life, it's one of the things that I'll probably appreciate more than anything is that.
Dude, 100%. It's funny that you say it like that too, because one of my buddies from Arizona, his name is Brian Forrester. He has a son named Tatum Forrester that's racing 170s now. Tatum is, he gets like so giddy when he can go wash RJ Anderson's body panels after the short course races. You didn't know that this happened today because we showed up a little bit earlier than you to the shop. Well, Lucero, I asked him if he needed help because he was washing the body panels for your truck, and he goes, "Yeah, dry this thing off." And immediately I thought, "Holy cow! I'm sitting here, a middle-aged man, washing a door on a trophy truck. This is amazing." And for me to understand what those kids think at that time, like that has got to be the most fantastic thing for all of those kids at the races. So I personally think that the more time and the more value that you can give to those generations as your career progresses is going to really, really make that sentimental when you retire.
Yeah,
It'll
absolutely.
be pretty cool. Okay, so we already asked who your Mount Rushmore was, but we had a couple people talk about and comment in what your plans are. I guess we'll call it the near future here, maybe 2021 and beyond.
Yeah, it's really, racing is what I do. I love doing it. Obviously, short course with Lucas Oil going away, losing the Rockstar sponsorship a couple of years ago. Through the sale to Pepsi, it ended up being bad timing there for myself and RJ. But, times have been hard with COVID and things are changing. And I was explaining to you guys yesterday, for so many of my racing years, I've been navigating through this one hallway or this new one tunnel. And now that hallway or tunnel is just a different direction, trying to figure things out, continue racing, trophy truck in the desert. Caden's racing I think he's racing a lot more than I am. He's racing all the work series, and he's been, riding with a guy named Brent Fox in the Best in the Desert series, and he'll be racing this weekend at the Baja Nevada race. And
go kick some ass, kid.
Yeah, absolutely. But, I want to get back doing stuff. Short course is, the stuff that's happening back at Crandon's, it's awesome. Lucas Oil going away, and then, the guys at Gas picking that up, Lee Perfect, Dave Cole, the Polvorti family and everybody there, it's a good thing. It's going to take some time, and hopefully everything gets going again. And, ultimately, I was explaining earlier, it's like my direction is kind of not as solid as it had been before, but things are starting to come back, and, score looks very strong. All that stuff's been consistent. The desert stuff's starting to be here in the U.S. has been pretty consistent. So, hopefully things pan out and start racing a lot more.
So a couple questions came in that are really kind of on that same line about where you're going to race and stuff. But first, Don Haugen said, Rob represents how we all should act in motorsports. He is humble, competitive, and a true leader in the sport. I couldn't agree more, man. Luke Alcock says, how great was the Mint 400 win? Let's see here. And I think that there's a secondary follow-up to that says, to cap your long list of races you've won.
Yeah, it was good. Winning the Mint, and honestly, I've raced a really lot of years, but I've only, in all those years, maybe a third of them have been racing in a vehicle that was capable of winning overall. So, I hadn't won the Mint overall until I think it was a couple years ago, 17 or 18 was the first time I ever won it overall. But 25 or 30 of the years, I wasn't in a vehicle that was capable of winning it overall. So ultimately, that was a good one to get off the bucket list. Really, Vegas to Reno is another one. I haven't won that one overall yet. So
really,
yeah, exactly.
Dang,
yeah,
dude.
so that's another one I got to work on. We times we thought other people think that I've got one win at every major race, but the Vegas to Reno is one of them. That
are there any other ones that elude you?
I'm sure there are. There's a few others. Yeah, I'm sure there's more, but definitely is a big high-profile race. Vegas to Reno is one of them.
Let's see. And then Tim Kern commented and said, I'm trying to be like you as well. I've looked up to you since the first time I watched you race at Firebird Raceway a long time ago. Well, Tim's got a story similar to mine because that's the first time I saw you in Carl battle. So that's pretty cool, man. You got a good person to look up to here. He's a solid guy for sure. And what's that last one that John Lewis is saying there, Rob?
It says, that's the feeling I had when I was a kid and got one of Rob's bedsides at the Mickey Thompson race. It's still up in the garage.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
And, Warfighter Made has a Rob Mack door hanging up there, too.
Dude, that's pretty cool. How does that work? So our audience members can know, like, at a short course race, do you give away panels and stuff sometimes?
Yeah, usually after the race or, each night and maybe even during the races, if there's body panels that are torn up and stuff, kids come up and we try to give all that stuff away and let them walk away with the souvenir.
Have some rad garage art.
Yeah.
It's always one of the raddest things, too, is just watch, like, this 5-year-old who can't even carry this thing, just dragging it through the dirt, going back, just the stoke on his face is just, memories. And apparently, Tim has one of those, or
John,
think, yeah.
That's pretty cool, man. It is pretty neat to see, though. We did a contest with Jeff Proctor of Honda Offroad to have people do it, and man, we got so many messages for people that wanted garage art. It was really cool. So that stuff is pretty memorable for everybody. All right, well, we're going to wind down the show a little bit. I know that you said that 2021 is going to be a little bit of a weird year, but if you had your druthers and you could predict the future, 2022 to like 2023, what would you just be doing, man? You'd be racing short course and desert just every weekend, or what?
Yeah, as much as possible. Racing's what I've done for so long. It's about all I know. So, short course stuff, I'm hoping it gets going again. It's the Midwest Series, honestly, again, telling you guys you need to go back to Crandon, but that series is looking pretty good. And then obviously, the Great American Short Course Series out here with Dave Cole, being king of the hammers and everything that he can do. I'm looking for great things there too. I think, it'll take time, obviously. And
I heard there's a Nora in his future with Warfighter Made. And a couple more ATSs,
Yeah, I think in the September we'll probably go hang out at one of those ATSs in the Unicorn too. Hey, have you ever done KOH? I don't know if I asked you last time.
Yeah, so I've done it maybe 5 times. The first couple times, the first time I did it was with the team Blue Torch.
And it was actually in a big truck or in a.
And then the second couple years, I did it with Poison Spider, Larry McRae, and ended up finishing, I think, 13th, like my third year.
Wow, that's pretty good.
And then the last 3 or 4 years, or 3 years, I missed a year, and there I've been driving with Greg Adler.
Yeah.
And this year, I wasn't supposed to drive with him this year. He called me on Thursday and said, could you help me out and do the desert section? So we went and did that and had fun. But yeah.
David P. said, and even the fiberglass shards. So people are really into those things, I guess, huh? Tim Kern says, I got a fender mount from the last Lucas Oil race at Wild Horse. That's pretty cool. You didn't race Wild Horse when it was backwards, did you?
No.
Yeah, I didn't get to race there either. All right, before I get into rapid fire Q&A, Rob, you got any questions for MacCachren over here?
I don't. I'm just stoked to be here.
Yeah, it's pretty
Likewise.
awesome. All right, so actually, are you going to race Crandon in June this year?
We'll see. I hope so.
Yeah, that'd be a pretty good race to be at. All right, so rapid fire Q&A, and I don't know because I didn't. I don't have the printout from when your last episode was. So if these are duplicates, just tell me.
Okay.
Dunes or the river?
It's river now. The river.
Okay, since it's summertime.
Yeah.
3-wheeler or quad?
Quad.
Cincerillo or I don't want to say Cincerillo or Osborne. El Hombre or Tomac? The reason I'm asking this is because we got a freaking lecture from Lucero today.
Well, I
about
gotta
who
say,
his favorite guys were, man.
I'm in the shop, so I got to say Tomac.
Yeah.
Yeah, Lucero's a big Tomac fan.
Oh, he's a big ombre guy, too.
He actually said that would be his number 2.
Yeah. Okay. How about mountain bike or road bike?
Mountain bike.
You go mountain bike?
Absolutely.
Do you have a mountain bike?
I did.
You did?
Well, actually, I still do. My son's commandeered mine. We had a little theft, and we lost his bike, so he's commandeered my bike.
Gotcha. Coffee or tea?
Tea. Never tasted coffee.
Yeah.
On
dude.
purpose.
Same with me.
Yeah.
Fun fact, you're the only one who's drinking coffee in this room.
Oh, that is. Fun fact.
Favorite soda?
It's been Mountain Dew lately.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mountain Dew. Jamie Campbell over there, we converted him over to Cactus Cooler, so he's a big Cactus Cooler guy. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
You asked me that before, maybe, or somebody did. I don't know. Maybe I think invisible was one of them.
What about teleporting? Because then you could
teleporting,
haul ass to the finish
There's
line.
so many.
Yeah, so some of these I may have asked you before. Uggs or Crocs?
Uggs.
I love that. I'm the same way too. I'm like, fuck those shoes. Yeah, like I hate those shoes so much. I need to switch it up because we're so over the Uggs or Crocs these days. Most memorable race, you already answered that one. Favorite flavor of ice cream?
It's probably
I wouldn't mind if
pretty simple.
We got Rob
Chips
Blanton.
and cookie.
Chips and cookies and cream or whatever?
Cookies and cream or whatever it is.
Robert Blanton, I would appreciate your answer as well.
Strawberry Rendezvous.
Boom. Audio clip of the night. Dogs or cats?
Dogs.
Netflix.
What's a cat?
What is that? Netflix or YouTube?
YouTube.
Supercross. Supercross or motocross?
Supercross.
I wonder why you like Supercross better than motocross. So I figured you'd pick motocross just because it's all like knockdown, drag out manliness.
Because I think they're doing more things in a shorter space or time.
Oh, I gotcha.
And I'm getting to go like, holy shit, and motocross, they're
from a fan's
they're
point of
hauling
view,
ass.
yeah.
But I think I'm getting able to. I'm seeing more technical things happen in a shorter period of time.
If you were the rider, what you going?
Well, I could never do Supercross.
So you're going motocross?
Yeah.
Does Caden ride?
I raced when I was a little kid, and then I've almost always owned a motorcycle, and then he's ridden.
You have
he
one
rides,
now?
Yeah.
What do you have now?
Husky FE350.
Nice, dude. That's the one I was thinking about getting. Is it badass?
I like my bike.
Sweet. What's
Actually-
Caden ride? Does he ride the same thing?
Well, he rides mine now.
Oh, okay.
He's got a CRF 250,
Nice,
but
man.
it won't start, so he takes mine.
Does it have the electric start and all that?
Mine?
Yeah, dude. That's
Of course.
That's exactly what I want to get. Yeah, and I think this question came up last time, but let's try to answer it again. What other form of racing would you like to try?
Well, going to do the Dakar, going to try that, but ultimately, like I've wanted to do that for a long time, but I wanted to do it to win, which made me never be able to go do it because those rides were very hard to get. So, yeah.
In a way,
But I'm okay with it too. Now I'm cool.
You've done so much, but what about if it was just in a UTV? And I feel like I'm like getting deja vu.
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that's opened up now is now with the UTVs, it does make it much more attainable to go.
Not affordable,
to
but
Dakar
attainable. Yeah, I guess.
Yeah, I mean it's still expensive, but I looked at the cost of that, and it's still.
Yeah, it's still pretty
a lot of
pricey,
money.
Man. Yeah, exactly. And then final question. I know you answered this one last time. Chips and guacamole or French fries and ranch?
Chips and guac.
Chips and guac all day.
You changed that to French fries and ranch?
Just on the fly, it still says ketchup.
Oh.
I was just thinking maybe it would make it.
How bougie white do we have to be in here?
Dude, it's half the dudes that we talk to is like, oh, I'll take French fries, but I'm going to mitch my ranch with the ketchup. I'm like, oh, my God, dude, seriously. All right, well, thank you guys all very much for tuning in. There's some guys that came in and thoughts of racing Antigo this year.
Anago?
Anago, is that what it is?
It's going to be great. I've raced there before. It's
Right on.
It's a cool little track.
Okay, well, thank you very much, Rob. We really appreciate it, dude. Thank you for taking us to tacos today. That was awesome. I'm glad that you guys have had the opportunity to put BF Goodrich on the side of the car, change the livery up a little bit. It looks fucking awesome, man. I'm stoked on it.
Yes.
I know that Rob is stoked that you came out to the adrenaline therapy sessions. What was it, last year? No, it was the beginning of the year.
I think it was the beginning of the year.
Yeah. So that was super cool. And giving back to the community and doing all the stuff that you do is awesome, man. You're just a badass dude all around. So thank you for having us here.
Likewise, pleasure to be here and honor to be here with you.
I appreciate it, man. And Don also said thank you very much, Blanton, for all your services and stuff that you do. He wrote a comment in, but it already passed. So
It was a pleasure.
Next week's show, we have it's going to be a Motocross Monday. So we have Davey Millsaps. I don't know if you guys ever heard of him, but we might get some good stories on him battling Trey Kennard at Anaheim. That was a good one. So we're going to talk with him at IMG Motorsports. That's going to be an awesome show. He's got stories for days as well. Thank you very much, Rob, for having us. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much, Robert Blanton, for being my co-pilot today, my co-dog. And you didn't even have to throw up, dude.
I'm not a very good co-dog.
You did fantastic today, bud. So thank you very much. We really appreciate all you guys for tuning in. You guys are our lifeblood. I say it every single episode, but it's really true because you guys are making this show tick. I'm glad that we get to give you a little bit of insight into what happens behind the scenes and with all these fantastic people that are in the off-road community. It means so much to us that everybody has accepted us with open arms and that you guys are paying attention and following us because it gives us the opportunity to do all this stuff. So we really appreciate everybody that's been a sponsor of the show. I'm not going to go into full detail of it. I'm just going to go through the list. So thank you to KMC. Thank you to all the guys at EFX Tires, Zollinger Racing Products, Shock Therapy, Cryo Heat, and Solder Weld. You guys are awesome. We really appreciate you guys living your dirt life with us. We will see you guys next Monday. Good night.
Thanks for listening to The Dirt Life Show.